You're about to hear 3 hours of things you never needed to know. Details that don't matter. Answers to questions no one asked, and yet, you might find yourself listening longer than you planned to. Let's begin. A sloth hangs from a branch, barely moving. Its fur drapes downward, blending with bark and shadow. The forest around it hums and shifts, but the sloth stays still. Even its breath is patient, slow, hidden beneath layers of stillness and time. Almost like it forgets to inhale, but it hasn't. It's just waiting. Somewhere inside that quiet body, its lungs are holding a secret, not just stillness but endurance. Sloths can hold their breath for up to 40 minutes, longer than a dolphin, longer than you'd ever expect from something that moves so little. Dolphins are sleek, fast, made for water. Their breath-holding feels like power, a dive, a dash, a flip through waves, but even they come up for air within 10 to 15 minutes. They need to. Their hearts work harder, their muscles burn faster. The sloth is the opposite. It doesn't rush, it doesn't chase, it barely moves at all. And inside, its organs follow the same pace. The sloth can slow its heart rate in half, not just while sleeping, but while resting, hanging, living. This slow rhythm lets it sink into silence. Its muscles don't use much oxygen. Its blood moves like syrup, not steam. Everything stretches. Each inhale, each exhale becomes optional for a while. Like a leaf on the surface of a pond, still but alive, it helps that sloths don't panic. They don't gasp. They don't tense up when holding their breath. They're built for pause. When threatened, they don't flee. They freeze. And while they freeze, their breath slips away and doesn't return until it must. Dolphins, for all their grace, are under pressure, literally. They dive deep, fighting gravity, holding tight. Their breath-holding is impressive, but it's effort. It's an act. A sloth's is just how it lives. Some of this comes from where they spend their lives, high in the canopy, draped across branches. They aren't avoiding predators with speed. They're blending in with stillness. Their breath isn't armor, it's camouflage. And when a sloth does need to go underwater, which it sometimes does to swim across a river or escape danger, it doesn't panic. It doesn't flail. It glides, slowly, purposefully, breathing withheld as if time has paused just for it. The lungs of a sloth aren't giant, the muscles aren't specialized, but every part of the body works together in agreement. No rushing, no pushing, just conserving. A gentle rhythm, drawn out like the last note of a song you didn't want to end. Even digestion in sloths takes a month. Food sits and ferments, calories last. Energy is saved, so the body doesn't need much oxygen, and the lungs don't need to keep feeding a fire that never burns too hot. People measure animals by what they can do fast, how high they jump, how quick they run, how long they sprint, but the sloth wins a different kind of race. The one where the finish line is stillness, and the prize is endurance. Still, you'd never guess this just by looking. A sloth looks like it's doing nothing, but inside, it's a master of control, of restraint, of breathing only when the forest allows, and not a moment before. Even now, somewhere in a canopy, a sloth holds its breath again. No sound, no sign, just lungs holding air like a folded note, waiting to be opened, waiting to be needed, waiting in no rush at all. It's strange to think of something slower than a clock, but the sloth lives that way. Each heartbeat stretched, each breath measured, each moment lengthened, like the end of a yawn that never finishes. Dolphins return to the surface in leaps. Sloths stay still and let time come to them. Two creatures made for different worlds, one built for bursts, the other built for waiting. And the sloth, it continues to hang, unmoved, its breath held somewhere behind its ribs, not trapped, just resting. A pause beneath the leaves, long quiet, and longer still. A frog catches the fly in a flash. The tongue flicks out and folds back in almost before you can blink. The insect disappears. But then something strange happens. The frog closes its eyes and pushes them down into its own head. It looks like a slow blink, but it's more than that. Behind the eyelids, the frog's eyes are moving, not side to side, downward, deep into its skull, pressing into its mouth, helping the meal move along. Frogs don't chew, their jaws don't grind or shift. The food doesn't get broken down in the mouth, it just sits there. Until something or somehow, someone, pushes it down, and for frogs, that someone is their own eyes. It happens every time they swallow. Their muscles pull the eyes inward, not just to close them, but to use them. The eyes press into the top of the mouth, nudging the food toward the throat, like two thumbs pushing from the ceiling. It sounds strange, but inside a frog's head, everything is close together. The eyes don't sit in front. They rest almost on top of the mouth. So when the frog blinks, its eyes press directly into the food below. This movement doesn't take long. Just a second or two, the eyes dip down, the throat contracts, and the food slides into the stomach. It's a motion you don't notice unless you're watching closely or unless you know what to look for. Still, it's not subtle. The frog's whole face shifts, the eyes sink, the skin around them folds inward like something deflating, then filling back up again. And then, it's done. The fly is gone. The eyes return. The frog waits for the next one. There's no backup plan. If a frog couldn't do this, if its eyes didn't press down, it wouldn't be able to eat. Not well, anyway. The tongue can catch food. The throat can take it, but the part in between needs help. And that help comes from above. From sight, turned into pressure. From vision, turned into force. A blink that pushes, not just closes. A glance that becomes a shove. It's the kind of thing that feels made up, but it's not. You can see it in slow motion. You can see it with your own eyes. A frog chewing with its face, swallowing with its stare, using the same orbs that scanned the fly to push it away forever. It doesn't hurt them. Down! Not really. The eyes are made for this. They've done it since the frog was small. Since tadpole days turned into leaps and chirps and nighttime hunts, the eyes adapted long ago. Not just for seeing, but for swallowing. Even now, on the edge of a pond, a frog sits still, then moves, tongue out, tongue in, and then, eyes down. The meal disappears without a sound, without chewing, without effort, just the slow sinking help of a gaze, turned inward. It's a strange thing, to need your eyes to eat, to use them not just for looking, but for pressing, pushing, guiding. But frogs do it every day, thousands of times, across thousands of species, blinking their food away. You won't see it unless you're close, unless you wait, unless you watch the moment asterisk after asterisk the catch. When the excitement is over, and the real work begins, a dip, a fold, a motion that looks like rest, but isn't, and once you notice it, you'll see it again. In every frog you meet, the eyes sinking for just a moment, then rising again, as if nothing happened, as if they never moved at all. But they did. They always do. Pressing food downward, pressing life forward. One blink at a time, and then stillness, again. A ripple moves through the water, almost nothing, a shift in the sand. Then something reaches forward, long, boneless, careful. An arm not searching, exactly, but sensing. Feeling the world around it not just through touch, but through taste. An octopus doesn't just feel with its arms. It gathers flavor, each suction cup, and there are hundreds, carries receptors for chemicals, like tiny tongues pressed into the surface of the sea. When an octopus glides its arm across a rock, it's not just exploring shape, it's tasting. It doesn't need to find food with its mouth. The arms know before the mouth does. They taste as they go, and when something interesting brushes past, a shell, a fish, a scrap, the arm already understands what it is, before anything else moves. The suction cups grip. Yes, but more than that, they test, they search for signals in the water, invisible to us, traces of salt, decay, motion, proteins, sugar, blood. The flavor of life, felt in every contact. Each arm can act on its own, not wild, but aware. The brain of the octopus isn't just in its head. Most of it lives in the limbs, distributed, shared, like 8 separate minds, connected by rhythm and purpose. So when an octopus wraps around something, it's not just holding, it's learning. Each cup taking in signals, deciding whether to pull, push, release. It tastes you before it sees you, before it decides what to do next. The arms rarely stop moving. They drift, coil, reach. Even while the body rests, the arms continue to test the water around them, always tasting, always checking. A web of curiosity spread in every direction. Some octopuses use this ability to hunt, not just with eyes, but by feeling across the ocean floor, dragging their arms over sand, waiting for flavor. When they sense something beneath, the arms dig, fast, focused. The decision made before the mouth is even involved. The world of an octopus is not visual first. It is a world of texture, of pressure, of chemical signals. A world where taste is touch, and where touching means knowing, completely, instantly, without second thought. Even now, somewhere below the surface, an octopus drapes itself across a coral shelf. One arm stretches, then another. The suction cups scan for flavor. Reading the reef like a menu written in movement, the ocean speaks differently to them. Not in light or sound, but in sensation. A trail in the current, a trace on the shell, a story in every drop. The arms read these signs without needing to translate. Just contact, just taste. We imagine taste as something small, a moment on the tongue, a decision between flavors. But for an octopus, it's larger, woven into every motion, every hunt, every hiding place. It doesn't taste once, it tastes constantly. If you've ever touched an octopus, it touched you back more completely than you realized. It didn't just feel your hand, it tasted your skin. It learned something about you, and then maybe, it let go. Their world is shaped by this kind of knowing, where each surface has a meaning. Each touch is a choice, where flavor and feel are one and the same. No separation, just information, moving through water and suction and thought. Even without sight, an octopus can find what it needs. It doesn't search in the way we do. It reaches, it waits, it senses. And when the taste is right, it acts. There is a kind of grace in this. No rushing, no scanning, just an arm extended, tasting the ocean, one ripple at a time, moving with intention that feels like instinct, but is more like memory. The mouth is hidden, tucked beneath, where all the arms meet, but by the time the food reaches it, the arms already know, already decided, already shaped the outcome, and when they finish, the arms retreat, they curl, they float again, reading the next page of the ocean through flavor, through touch, through the silence that moves in every direction. The body stays still, the eyes stay calm, but the arms keep tasting. Even now, even here. The garden hums. A slow golden rhythm moves through the air. Wings flicker, leaves shift, and between flowers, a bee drifts, not in straight lines but in arcs and loops. It lands, then lifts again. But even in this soft blur of motion, it remembers where it's been, what it saw, and somehow, who. Bees don't just visit flowers, they take in everything around them, shapes, patterns, edges. They learn, and tucked within that learning is something unexpected. They can recognize human faces, not just features, faces. Yours, mine. Not perfectly, but well enough. Not through eyes like ours, but through their own kind of mapping, piecing together parts and remembering how they fit, not just once. Over time, it starts with contrast, light and dark. The space between eyes, the curve of a mouth. A bee doesn't see the whole picture. It sees the puzzle, and somehow, it puts the pieces back together the next time it sees you. Their brains are tiny, a speck compared to ours. But even in that small space, bees hold memories. They can be trained to recognize patterns, tested with images, shown photos of faces, and still, they remember which one they've seen before. It isn't emotional recognition, it's spatial, visual, a kind of low-resolution memory that still holds detail. Enough to tell one person from another, enough to come back to the same hand that didn't swat them away. Still, bees don't rely on faces, they don't need to, but they can asterisk. They use the skill for flowers, mostly. Blossoms have patterns, ultraviolet marks we can't see. To a bee each flower is a face, something to learn, something to revisit. But when humans enter the garden, the same recognition applies. A face becomes a landmark. A safe space, maybe even a signal of food, if you stood still long enough near blooms. If you didn't move too fast, if you didn't flick your wrist. Even now, as one hovers in front of you, wings humming like a wire, it might be remembering you, not by name, not by thought, just by shape. A familiarity drawn from light and pattern. The memory doesn't last forever. A few days, maybe a week, but for a bee, that's a lifetime. Long enough to come back to the same bloom, or the same person. Long enough to decide this space is safe, and for a moment, you and the bee share something. A brief understanding. You see it, it sees you, and neither of you needs to explain. They're not the only insects with this ability, but something about bees makes it feel closer, like they shouldn't know you. And yet they do, in the smallest way. In the quietest flicker of wings, scientists trained them with tiny drops of sugar, tiny photos. But the bees learned without much help. They watched, they remembered. They chose. It wasn't magic, just attention, just pattern, just recognition drawn from repetition. The garden doesn't feel like a place for memory, but bees remember it all. The slope of the leaf, the pull of the wind, the shape of a face beside the blossoms, each visit adding to the map. Their world is smaller than ours, but in some ways, more focused. What they see. What they learn. They use. And then when it's no longer needed, they let it go. Somewhere, a bee is watching someone walk by, not afraid, just aware. Holding a flicker of memory in a mind the size of a grain. One face among many, one moment among thousands, and even as the wings buzz away, the image lingers, not perfectly, but enough, just enough to remember, until the next flight, until the next bloom, until the next shape that feels familiar. In the shallows, where sunlight scatters across the sand, something drifts that doesn't quite swim, not fast, not straight. A seahorse, upright, unhurried, its tail curls around a strand of seagrass, anchoring it in place, and within its body, something quietly grows. You might not know, just from looking. The shape is delicate, armor-like, almost toy-like. But inside, the male carries life, dozens, sometimes hundreds. Not eggs, not sperm, not a simple roll. He is pregnant, and soon he will give birth. Among all the animals, this reversal is rare. In seahorses, it's the male who takes the burden of carrying. The female delivers the eggs, gently, into a pouch on his front, like a pocket made of skin. And from there, the process begins. The pouch is more than a sack, it's a chamber, a protected space. It seals, it feeds, it adjusts salt levels, temperature, chemistry. It does everything a womb would do, only it's on the outside, and it belongs to him. Each embryo floats in its own pocket of fluid, fed by the father's body. Not just protected, nurtured. The male's system gives oxygen, removes waste, and keeps them safe, even while the world outside moves with tides and threat. Still, the seahorse looks peaceful. He bobs, he anchors, he drifts. No panic, no nesting. Just the slow rhythm of his body, doing what it must, as the tiny lives inside begin to take shape. Fins, eyes, tails, all folded, all waiting. And when the time comes, it doesn't look gentle. His body bends, twists, muscles contract, and out they come, not one or two, but entire bursts of babies shot into the sea like a soft explosion of movement. The process can take hours. Each contraction brings more, a pulse, a pause, then another wave. Some births bring dozens, some hundreds, all fully formed, miniature, fragile, but ready. Within minutes, the newborns are swimming away, alone. He does not stay with them. He does not teach. His role was the carrying, the sheltering, the gift of space, so small lives could form. After birth, they are on their own, carried by current, hidden by chance. Even now, somewhere near a reef, a male seahorse waits again, his pouch full, his body calm. He sways with the water, guarding a future that moves inside him, unseen, but certain. We think of pregnancy as female, a deep, unchangeable rule, but nature is not so rigid. In quiet corners of the sea, those rules fold. They soften, they shimmer like light on water, and reveal a different way. It is not about role reversal, it is about survival. Evolution sculpted this exchange, gave the female more time for egg-making, gave the male a purpose beyond the usual, a task of holding, not chasing, of carrying, not competing. And so he carries, not with hands, not with weight, but with skin and blood, and time. He protects the future in silence, never pausing his drifting, never asking for anything more. The ocean doesn't applaud. It doesn't mark this difference as special. It just lets it be, as it always has been, as it still is, in the sway of seagrass, in the stillness of shallow tides. The babies are gone now. He released them hours ago. They're already scattered, already invisible. But he remains, breathing slower, resting, waiting, and in time, he will begin again. Because this is what he does, what he was made to do. Not loud, not proud, just quiet work, shaped by salt and time. A father, building life within himself, beneath the surface, beneath the waves. In a quiet lab, a single pigeon moves between two small cages. Its keen eyes flicker from one to the other. One cage holds a simple task, a piece of food. The other holds something far less obvious, cells. Hidden inside, microscopic pieces of life. Even now, it doesn't seem like much. Yet the pigeon's actions are precise, deliberate, and full of purpose. Without much thought, the pigeon is asked to distinguish between healthy cells and those altered by cancer. It hops from one cage to the next. One small step, one subtle shift in movement. Something about the arrangement, the pattern of growth in the cells. Perhaps it's the color, or the subtle difference in texture. But the pigeon knows, it's not simply that pigeons are quick learners, it's that they have a deep sensitivity, an ability to detect tiny changes. What humans see as a small difference might be vast in the world of these birds. Their vision, more attuned to subtle variations, sees what we cannot. This sensitivity, this instinct, is woven into them. And so they begin to see cancer. Pigeons can be trained to identify these microscopic differences, whether in a petri dish or a swab. Their brains process thousands of details at once, far more than we could recognize in the same span of time. Each movement they make, flicking a wing, tilting their head, is not random. It's an assessment, a signal, a response to something only they can sense. The process is slow, deliberate. They don't rush, but they don't hesitate either. Over time, the pigeons learn. Through thousands of trials, they begin to associate cancerous cells with specific visual clues. It's not something we could notice with a glance, but they see it instinctively, effortlessly. In their world, the difference is apparent. In a way, it's almost as if they are quietly uncovering secrets we've overlooked. The cells, once so small and insignificant, become part of a larger story. A pattern, a subtle shift in the way life grows. It's a detail humans have spent years searching for, yet it lies in the calm gaze of a pigeon. Still, even though we can understand the process, it's hard to grasp fully. What makes the pigeon's ability so fascinating isn't just the method, it's the fact that the bird, in its own quiet way, is uncovering something hidden. It's a tiny moment of revelation that we might never have expected from such a simple creature. Yet here they are, revealing the unseen. Even now, researchers continue to test the pigeons, refining the method. They no longer just identify the presence of cancer, but can discern specific types: breast, lung, prostate. The pattern grows more defined. The pigeons, once seen as simple creatures, are now part of something larger. They are collaborators in a quiet revolution. It's not that pigeons are unique in their ability. Other animals, like dogs, have also been trained to detect certain diseases, like diabetes and seizures. But the pigeon's method is different. Its precision is so sharp, so almost eerily exact. They don't need complicated equipment, just a single instinctive sense, a sixth sense that we didn't even realize existed. Perhaps it's the stillness in their movement that makes it so compelling. They don't overthink, don't rush. Each step, each flick of their wings is carefully measured. This quiet precision is what makes them so effective. The simplicity of the task, combined with the depth of their perception, turns it into something almost magical. In truth, pigeons have been used for a variety of purposes throughout history. They've been messengers, companions, even artists, but now, in the most unassuming of settings, they are part of a much larger story. One of science, discovery, and the search for answers that remain just out of reach. It's easy to forget how often we overlook the small, unnoticed parts of our world. Yet in the delicate movement of a bird's wings, we find something deeper, something that has been hidden in plain sight. For all the advances of modern technology, sometimes the simplest solutions are the ones we overlook. The pigeons remind us of this. And so, when the pigeon gently pecks at the cage, recognizing the difference between life and illness, it does not pause to consider its significance. It simply knows, as we watch, we understand just a little more about what it is to see the world, not through our eyes but through theirs. A single drop of water, a slow ripple, stretching out, beneath the surface, a faint shadow moves, weaving through the blue, where the light breaks into 1,000 beams, cutting the water into segments of color. Beneath the surface, something shifts. In the distance, a flock is gathering. Pink, they're standing still, poised, yet somehow shifting, each of them bending and stretching, adjusting ever so slightly. The water around them shimmers in quiet rhythm. It's almost as if the color that surrounds them is a part of them, but not quite. It's borrowed, something that has changed them but can't be fully theirs. The flamingo, tall and thin, wading through the shallow waters, is not born pink. It's a delicate transformation, not unlike a soft change in the sky as dusk rolls in. The color, so vibrant, seems as though it was always meant to be, as though it grew naturally from the quiet movements of their long necks. But it wasn't always this way. At the start, flamingos are pale. When they hatch, they are almost white, their feathers untouched by the world around them. They're vulnerable in that early stage, like a blank canvas, but it's not long before the change begins, and it begins with what they eat. Shrimp, tiny crustaceans, so small they barely catch the eye. They live in the waters flamingos call home, rich in the same blue depths where the flock stands still. The shrimp themselves are small, often unnoticed, but within them is a secret, a pigment called astaxanthin. It's a powerful thing, this pigment, bright, almost neon, nestled within the bodies of the shrimp. This pigment, when consumed, takes on a journey through the flamingo's system, quietly, unannounced, yet with the power to alter everything. As the flamingo eats, the pigment enters its body. It's absorbed, processed, transformed. The body, designed to turn these foods into nutrients, redirects this pigment. It's processed into the bloodstream, carried through the flamingo's veins, where it eventually makes its way to the feathers. Here, it starts its quiet work. The white feathers slowly pick up the hue, pale streaks at first, then gradually deepening. The color blooms. Still, even now, many people don't realize how dependent the flamingo's color is on its diet. It's not a mere coincidence or a random act of nature. The shrimp and the algae that the shrimp eat are the crucial agents. They are the ones who bring this pink into the flamingo's life. Without them, the flamingo would remain a shade of white, perhaps a pale gray, never showing the dramatic hues we associate with them today. You might wonder how something as small as shrimp can have such a powerful impact, but sometimes, even the smallest things carry the greatest weight. In the flamingo's case, the simplest things are the foundation of what makes them unforgettable. Their beauty, their color, it's all a product of something so tiny, it might slip by unnoticed if you weren't paying attention. As the flamingo matures, the change becomes more distinct. At first, it's subtle, a soft pink, but over time, as the bird continues to feed, the color saturates deeper, like paint gradually building up on a canvas. A flamingo that feeds more often, especially on those rich algae and shrimp-laden waters, will eventually turn the brightest of pinks, almost glowing under the sunlight. You might have noticed even now that some flamingos are not as pink as others. The pinks vary, from pale, muted tones to the deepest, richest shades. It's a reflection of their environment, and most importantly, their diet. In places where the shrimp are less abundant, or the water less rich in algae, the flamingos won't reach those brilliant hues. Their pink will remain muted. Without much thought, the flock moves in unison, one foot raised slowly and placed in the water with practiced elegance. Each step is delicate, purposeful. They seem to have mastered the art of movement, as if their very bodies have absorbed the stillness of the waters around them. A slow procession, as they feed, as they change. The shrimp they eat may be small, but their effects are far-reaching. There's an irony to it, something so seemingly insignificant, yet it colors the flamingo's entire being. It's an odd reminder how something so small can shape the world around it, leaving a permanent mark, like an artist choosing just the right shade. In the quiet of the wetlands, the flamingos gather, their vibrant pinks standing out against the soft green of the grass. They don't ask for attention. They simply exist, living in the quiet, constant transformation of their surroundings. The pink doesn't make them any more special, it's just part of who they are. Maybe you'll notice it next time you see them. The color, or maybe it will slip by unnoticed, a quiet reminder of how something as small as shrimp can change an entire life. The color is part of them, but it isn't them. It never really was, still it lingers, just as they do, quiet, unchanged. There's a quiet stillness under the water's surface, a gentle sway, a ripple, as something almost imperceptible moves in the depths. It's easy to overlook this small, slow dance of a creature that seems so simple, almost forgotten. But within it, an extraordinary power waits, hidden in plain sight. The starfish, often dismissed as a mundane ocean dweller, carries within it an ability that seems almost mythic. What could be more unassuming than the spiny arms of a sea creature that clings to rocks and coral? Yet the starfish has something few creatures can boast, a hidden resilience. One arm, alone, can unlock a new life. Without much thought, most would see the starfish as simply an oddity, the product of an ancient design. A star-shaped body, resting on the ocean floor, its movements slow and deliberate. Yet beneath this unremarkable appearance lies a secret, a quiet mechanism that operates almost like magic. It begins with a single piece, one arm left behind, as though by chance. Even now, after thousands of years of evolution, this single arm contains enough of the creature's essence to begin a rebirth. The starfish, in its delicate dance, grows its lost body, using the arm as a seed, not a severed limb to waste, but a foundation from which a new starfish will emerge. A process so silent, it could easily slip by unnoticed. The idea is simple, yet profound. From one arm, an entire body. A kind of resurrection. Not like the mythical phoenix that rises from flames, but a quiet, slow-growing process that happens under the surface of the water, unobserved by the busy world above. And in this rebirth, no part of the original starfish is wasted. Still, it's easy to forget that this process is not immediate. Time slows for the starfish as it begins to grow new tissue, slowly forming a full body from just a fragment. At first, a small, almost imperceptible growth appears at the edge of the severed arm, And then over weeks and months, this small beginning becomes something more. An arm, a body, a life. One might think of the starfish's body as a canvas, each arm a brushstroke. The intricacy of the process is hidden, occurring out of view. What begins as a simple fragment eventually becomes a complex organism again, reformed, not in pieces, but in continuity. Every piece of the starfish, even the smallest segment, is vital to its rebirth. You might have noticed, in quiet moments by the water, how the starfish seems to pause, almost like it's contemplating its next movement. And in that stillness, perhaps it isn't thinking at all. Perhaps it is simply allowing the deep rhythm of its body to unfold in its own time, returning to itself piece by piece. Even now, in the depths of the ocean, the same quiet process continues, unseen by most. Starfish living in hidden crevices, slow in their movements, silently regrowing. It's easy to imagine them as creatures of habit, continuing the rhythm of their existence as though nothing has changed. And in a sense, nothing has. The cycle simply continues. The oddity of this regeneration doesn't just lie in the starfish's ability to regrow a body. There's a deeper, quieter truth. The entire process operates in a subtle balance of efficiency. The starfish doesn't rebuild everything at once, but rather lets time take its course, building slowly, without urgency. It knows that everything it needs is already within the arm. Without much thought, many will never see this miracle at work, only noting the starfish in its stillness or its slow crawl along the ocean floor. The regrowth happens in shadow, beneath layers of water and sand, unnoticed, and yet it's one of the quietest, most persistent acts of life on Earth. Perhaps it is this patience, this long drawn-out process of becoming, that makes the starfish's regeneration so fascinating. There is no rush, no frantic rebuilding, only a gentle, persistent unfolding. A regrowth so subtle, so slow, that it might seem as though nothing at all is happening. Still, as we continue to move about our lives, unaware of the quiet cycles beneath us, the starfish continues its dance. Piece by piece, it rebuilds itself, without hesitation, without fanfare, and without any need for attention. Its regeneration is a testament not to grand gestures, but to quiet persistence, to time, and so the starfish simply exists. It doesn't ask for attention, but it never really leaves, either. It remains, quietly growing, regrowing, continuing the slow, steady rhythm of life beneath the waves. Maybe tomorrow you'll notice, or maybe not. It simply waits, quiet, unchanged. The sound of a crackling twig breaks the quiet air. A small bird, barely a few weeks old, shifts under the cover of leaves. Its feathers, still soft, move like a whisper in the wind. It watches the sky, its world filled with shapes and sounds. And there, high above, is the promise of home. In the distance, a parent bird calls, a sound sharp and fluid. Without a pause, the young one answers. Its voice tentative but eager. It's the first time it will speak, or at least, it will speak in the way that matters. Its name, given not by its parents, but by its own voice. Still, it takes time for the name to emerge. In the wild, parrots don't simply teach their young to speak, they form an intricate connection with them, one built from hours of sound and response. The parent bird, perched nearby, listens intently, observing the clumsy attempts. It doesn't speak much, but it doesn't need to. The name will be there when it's ready. Even now, the ancient rhythm of naming is something unseen, something felt in the quiet moments between calls. The way a parrot speaks is not just the shaping of sound, but the shaping of identity. It is a ritual, a bonding between parent and offspring that stretches back long before we understood what we now call language. A single word or sound is not enough. It's in the repetition, the soft echoes bouncing back and forth between the parent and the young. Parrots, unlike many animals, don't simply mimic sounds, they live in them, weaving them into the fabric of their own existence. Each sound carries with it a small piece of who they are. Without much thought, a parrot's offspring picks up these sounds. The parent bird's voice becomes a map, tracing a path the chick will follow. When it speaks, the sound is less a word than a question that seeks to belong, to find its place in the chorus of the forest. As the days pass, the chick grows bolder. It stretches its wings, learning the language of its ancestors in tandem with the world around it. Its first word is a bit jagged, like a distant echo, but it is its own. A name, a soft call to the world, pulled from the very air it breathes. It's not a name in the way we think of it, written or fixed. No, it's a sound, a vibration that carries meaning, but not in the way we understand. For the parrot, naming isn't about labels or permanence, it's about the relationship. The name will evolve as the bird does, changing with every moment, every interaction. Still, there's something oddly comforting in the way the name finds its form. It's never rushed. The bird has time. It's in the pauses, the silent moments between calls, that the name takes shape. It's a process of discovery, not of instruction. The parents don't teach the name, they simply offer the space for it to emerge. Even in a world so full of noise, the parrot's call remains singular, an unmistakable mark of identity. It is in these small moments of sound that the parrot's life unfurls. With each repetition, its call becomes stronger, clearer. The name isn't just something it answers to, it's something it becomes. In the nests, far removed from the bustling human world, the name is simply one piece of the puzzle. Parrots don't see it as a word to be heard. It's more like a bridge, a line connecting them to their parents, their environment, to the pulse of the world itself. The parrot chick, now growing more confident, begins to answer its name with greater clarity. It's as if the sound carries not only identity, but a sense of belonging. A name that once seemed like a whisper now rings through the trees, a part of the rhythm of life around it. It's easy to forget how deeply animals connect to the world through sound. For parrots, their names aren't static, they aren't confined to a singular moment in time. They are living things, growing and shifting, as much a part of the parrot's journey as its wings or its feathers. It is a connection that's not easily broken. The young bird, now fully fledged, calls out once more. Its voice echoes, not just across the branches, but across the lineage of its kind. The sound is unmistakable. It's a call that carries with it the weight of generations, wrapped in the form of a name. It doesn't ask for attention, but it doesn't fade either. The name, though unspoken by humans, has weight. It lingers in the branches, among the sounds of the wind. Perhaps, in time, someone might hear it, someone who will recognize the bond, the story told quietly and without fanfare. Maybe you'll notice it tomorrow, or maybe you never will. But the next time you hear a bird call, just listen a little closer. The name might not be obvious, but it's always there, waiting to be heard, waiting to be found. It simply waits, quiet, unchanged. The scent of fresh hay mixes with the damp earth, soft, slow chewing, eyes half closed in gentle contemplation. There's a kind of stillness in the air, where the weight of the world seems just beyond reach. Here in the quiet pasture, a few cows stand side by side, their heads move in unison, chewing together, without a thought, a kind of unspoken bond. Even in this simplicity, there is a complexity. You might have seen them, cows, huddled close, almost like they were born to be together, but not all cows are the same. Some walk alone, while others are never too far from a specific companion, a best friend of sorts. These cows move together, side by side, never straying too far. It's a bond that goes beyond instinct. Without much thought, one cow will look for another, nudging closer, even when the herd seems vast and scattered. The connection isn't just about grazing or warmth. There's something deeper, something that turns the casual glance into a quiet assurance, a kind of knowing, and it's not just a passing habit. Studies show that cows develop these friendships over time. They recognize each other, they seek each other out, even when the world around them is nothing but green grass and quiet winds. Cows are social animals, but it's not just about being together. It's about being with that one specific cow. A friend. Still, it's not always so simple. You might have noticed, or perhaps you've heard, that when separated, cows can experience real stress. Their eyes, once calm and deep, become filled with a kind of anxious confusion. The gentle rhythm of their steps falters. The world seems louder, heavier. They call out, searching, but no response comes. The stress is palpable. Heart rates rise, their bodies tense, unsure. It's as if, in the absence of that one connection, the weight of everything becomes a little too much. A separation that seems so ordinary to us feels like an unraveling to them. Something small, yet essential, has gone missing. Even now, in herds where there are hundreds of cows, you'll find these bonds don't fade. The friendships remain. They are subtle, but unmistakable. A quiet dance. When a cow is alone for too long, the signs of stress are clear. The head tilts, searching. The movements become hesitant. It's not just the absence of a body, it's the absence of trust. In a way, we've overlooked this connection for so long. Most people might assume cows are solitary, focused only on food and shelter. But these friendships, they are a glimpse into something we rarely see, a quiet kind of need. It's not that cows seek out companionship because they're social creatures. It's because they are deeply attuned to one another. These friendships are not formed overnight. They develop slowly, over days, months, even years. A familiar face becomes a reassurance. The gentle nudge becomes an unspoken promise. No need to say anything. The bond is enough. Cows, like us, rely on those who make them feel anchored in an ever-changing world. The connection between them isn't just about proximity. It's about trust, a shared experience. The moments spent together are more than just time passing. They are pieces of a larger whole. The gentle sway of their bodies, their synchronized chewing, is a dance without music, a rhythm felt in silence. And when that bond is broken, when one cow is removed from the group, it's not just a disruption in the moment, it's a shift in their very sense of being. Imagine walking into a room where your most trusted companion is no longer there. How does the room change? For them, it's not just the absence of a friend, it's the absence of peace. There's something uniquely vulnerable in this. Cows don't ask for much. They don't need grand gestures or loud conversations. They need each other. A soft look, a gentle nudge, a quiet moment where the world slows, just enough to let them remember the one who is always there. Perhaps it's easy to dismiss this as mere animal behavior. But when you pause, really pause and look closer, you begin to see the quiet complexity beneath the surface. In their world, friendships are real. They shape how they live, how they move, how they experience the world. And maybe, just maybe, we could learn something from this unspoken connection. In a world where we often rush past each other, there is something gentle about the cow's quiet loyalty. Maybe we too need those small, steady bonds that help us feel calm when everything else feels uncertain. Maybe we've forgotten what it means to truly rely on one another, to move through the world with someone by our side. The cows remind us that connection, however quiet, is a comfort, something to hold on to, even in the chaos. The question is, when was the last time you truly looked for your own best friend? The pasture is quiet now. The breeze shifts, carrying the scent of earth and hay. Still, the cows stand together. One more shift in their slow, rhythmic dance. The world remains unchanged, but they are not alone. It simply waits, quiet, unchanged. There's a subtle stillness in the way the world turns sometimes, a slow breath of air that passes unnoticed, slipping through the cracks between things. And somewhere in the quietest corners, creatures go about their lives in ways that might seem a little unexpected. Turtles, for example. You don't always think of them this way, but what if I told you they breathe through their rear? It's not quite as strange as it sounds. There's a quiet, almost imperceptible rhythm to it. A system that has evolved over millions of years, hidden within the turtle's shell, waiting for the right moment to reveal itself. Their unique ability is called cloacal respiration. Still, the idea that something so ordinary, so universal as breathing, could take on such an unexpected form, feels like a curiosity. For most animals, The lungs take the lead, drawing air in through the nose and expelling it from the mouth. But turtles, well, they've found a way to bypass that. You might wonder how they manage it. Deep within their bodies, tucked behind layers of skin and bone, lies the cloaca. It's an unassuming opening, often dismissed as just another exit for waste, but when necessary, it becomes a delicate gateway to oxygen. The turtle doesn't need to surface to breathe. Without much thought, you might imagine it's all an accident, a byproduct of some evolutionary whim. But in truth, it's a life-saving adaptation. In cold water, where air is scarce and surface breaks are few, the turtle can linger beneath the surface, breathing through the cloaca, slowly pulling in the oxygen it needs. A rhythmic pulse, almost like a quiet beat, sustains them. When they are submerged, their body absorbs oxygen through this soft, hidden passage. Even the most leisurely turtle can last much longer underwater than most creatures, thanks to this ability. They don't need to fight the surface for a breath, but rather float within it. This adaptation is not without its limits. The turtle doesn't always rely on cloacal respiration. It's just another tool, an option. On land, it's nothing more than a secondary system, a backup. When they climb onto a rock to bask in the sun, their lungs once again take center stage, pushing out stale air and pulling in fresh. But even now, in the warm light, the cloaca remains an ever-present part of their quiet existence. The creature rests, barely moving, yet always breathing. A soft rhythm underneath the shell, a whisper that slips in and out without thought, without need for attention. It simply exists. The beauty of it is in its subtlety. Imagine for a moment how little you would notice if you didn't know. The turtle seems at peace, floating along, unaware of how extraordinary its everyday life truly is. Breathing, not through its mouth or nose, but through an unassuming place, without the need for effort, without the rush. Even in the deepest waters, a turtle can simply exist, floating, breathing, its body a quiet testament to the wonders of adaptation. There is no struggle, no frantic swim for air. It's just there, calm and deliberate, as though it has all the time in the world. And yet this quiet miracle is more than a physical oddity. It speaks to something deeper, something almost meditative about the turtle itself, how it lives, how it moves, slow, deliberate, with purpose, without haste. It reminds us that sometimes the simplest solutions are the most remarkable. Maybe, if you look close enough, there's something in that too. Something in the way a turtle breathes, how it survives, how it carries on. No grand gestures, no dramatic movements, just a quiet, subtle persistence, breathing, slowly, softly, unnoticed. The turtle, in its endless glide, doesn't need to shout for attention. It doesn't need to explain. It simply breathes, through the unlikeliest of means. It doesn't ask for recognition. But in its quiet, understated existence, it offers us a lesson we might not even know we need. And so it goes, the world turning, as it always does. The turtle breathes beneath the surface, unnoticed, quiet. You might never have known this about it, but now you do. Maybe you'll think about it the next time you see one, or maybe you won't. It doesn't ask for attention, but it never really leaves. There's a quiet thing that goes unnoticed. It's not something most of us think about when we look at an animal, but if you look closely, you might see it, a pattern, a distinctness that connects us. Sometimes, it's there, hidden in plain sight, beneath fur, skin, or scales. In the shade of a eucalyptus tree, the koala rests. Its large, round ears twitch slightly, unaware of the soft breeze moving through the branches. For all their slow movements and sleepy nature, koalas have a quiet secret, one that could make them look more like us than we might first guess. When a koala reaches out, curling its fingers around a branch, it's not just a grip, it's a signature, a whisper of something ancient. At first glance, you might think its paws are just paws, but when you pause to look at them up close, they reveal something almost unsettlingly familiar. The pattern of ridges that line the tips of their fingers seems so human, a unique looping fingerprint, not unlike our own. In fact, the koala's fingerprints are nearly indistinguishable from human fingerprints. The lines of ridges swirl and weave in a similar way, much like the ones found on our hands, designed to hold, to touch, to feel. It's curious to think about how such a small, quiet creature could share something so specific with humans. After all, koalas don't spend their days holding tools or gripping anything more than branches. Still, their hands speak a language we understand, a language built from the same pattern, the same design. There's no reason for this similarity, not in terms of utility. Koalas don't need fingerprints to survive. They don't need to leave identifiable marks on objects. But somehow, they share this deep, almost unspoken link to us, a link that shows up not in the way they live, but in the way they exist, with their own version of our most human detail. Still, it's not the only secret of their fingers. Koalas have two opposable thumbs on each hand, a quiet mastery over their small world, each one designed to hold onto a tree, to claim it as their own. These thumbs don't need the intricate patterns of our own, but they carry with them something else, something that echoes us. The question arises then, why the fingerprints? Why would an animal so removed from our lives share this tiny echo of our own? Maybe it's not a question of why. Maybe it's just the way things have happened. Evolution's hidden designs, those moments when things align in odd and unexpected ways, drawing lines between us and them. In the great design of nature, fingerprints are just one way to hold on to something larger than oneself, or to a small hidden life. The koala, in its slow, deliberate movements, holds onto its branch with the same certainty that we grip a pen, a steering wheel, or even each other. It's all the same design. Really, a pattern stretched across the living world. Even now, when a koala climbs slowly up its tree, it doesn't need to know the secret it carries. It just moves. Its fingers, holding the branch, show us something different, something from an ancient past, carried quietly forward through time. Something shared, something unnoticed, but it's there, waiting. The pattern of life spreads out in unexpected places. The fingerprints of a koala, like ours, are a reminder of just how much we have in common with the world around us. A quiet reminder that we're all linked, even in the smallest of details. Even if we'll never fully know why, it simply waits, quietly, like an old pattern. Perhaps it will fade, or maybe it will remain forever just out of reach, waiting for us to notice. But the next time you see a koala, maybe just for a moment, you'll see its hand as something more, something shared. Maybe tomorrow you'll think about it again, or perhaps not at all. Either way, the koala's fingers will continue to curl, unknowing, just like ours. It's a strange thing to notice if you happen to be watching them for long enough. Goats, standing still in the sun, eyes locked, distant, their pupils, sharp and elongated, stretching like narrow slits, cutting through the darkness of their eyes with a perfect rectangular shape. They look otherworldly, still. In the calm of the field, you might not notice at first. You'll see them grazing, ears twitching, a steady rhythm of motion, but then perhaps you'll catch the glint of light reflecting off their eyes. A quick shift, and there it is, those pupils, strangely rectangular, like something that shouldn't belong in nature. Without much thought, your mind might wander to the mechanics of it. What could cause such a thing? Rectangular pupils. It doesn't seem like something you'd expect in the natural world. Eyes are round. They're round in almost every creature you know, but not in a goat. Not in this way. Something's different. The goat's eye isn't just designed for sight. It's a tool, an instrument of survival. See, the eyes, though strange to us, are an evolutionary marvel. Their unique shape allows them to see more, to be aware in ways that we might find almost alien. But it's not magic, not at all. It's just nature's design. The rectangular shape allows for greater control. Imagine the horizon in front of you. You're a goat, perched at the edge of a rocky hill. You need to see the world stretching before you, vast and open, but also close enough to spot the smallest movement, a predator perhaps, or an opportunity to escape. The rectangle gives you this. Even now, in the sun-dappled fields where goats wander, those pupils are constantly adjusting. They shift with every change in light, controlling how much they take in, how much they let go. It's like a camera, but more organic, a constant aperture, a clever design meant for alertness, vigilance. Their world is vast, and they need it to be in sharp focus. They don't blink often. A slow glance, an occasional flicker, and then their eyes are right back. Fixed, focused, even when they move, even when they're startled, their gaze is steady. There's no jerking of their heads, no frantic search. The pupils guide their gaze in a smooth, controlled dance. And it's not just about the far off. Those eyes, in the spaces where the goat's head remains steady, look everywhere. The shape of the pupil means they can take in a wide arc of view, far more than our round eyes ever could. Left, right, up, down. They see the world from every angle, even when they're looking in one direction. This was no accident, no quirk of nature. Their eyes have been shaped over millions of years. Nature's hand, guiding them through each twist and turn of survival. It's why they stand with such quiet grace on the side of mountains, where few other creatures could thrive. Their pupils are simply an extension of their ability to stay alert. In fact, it's this same sharp awareness that keeps them alive. A predator, a shadow in the brush, might go unnoticed by other creatures, but the goat, with its rectangular eyes, will spot it from the corner of its vision, long before it draws close. This is why they are so good at surviving in places that most other animals avoid. It's built into their eyes. Still, it's curious how something so small can shape the whole of an animal's life. The rectangular pupils are a subtle adaptation, nothing flashy. They don't boast of their power, yet it's there in every soft shift of the eye, in every subtle turn of the head. The pupils don't speak, but they tell you everything you need to know about survival. Without much thought, they do their work. A small detail in the vast, quiet world, yet so much of a goat's world is built on these quiet, hidden designs. Rectangular pupils are not simply a random fact, they are a whisper of evolution, a tool that quietly shapes a creature's existence, and so they move through their world. A slight shift in their gaze, a glance at the horizon, a soft rhythm of observation that continues day after day. They see everything, without us ever fully realizing how much they take in. And we, with our round pupils, will always miss the depth of what they see. Maybe next time you see a goat, you'll notice those eyes again. Or maybe not. But in their steady, unwavering gaze, there's more than just a reflection of the world around them. There's a story told in the way their pupils remain locked in place, always vigilant, always ready, a quiet reminder of the small things that shape the largest of lives. And when the wind stirs through the grass, the world around them shifting, the goat stands, silent, still, its pupils unchanged. There's a peculiar stillness in the air, as though everything waits for a signal, for something to unfold. In the depths of darkened undergrowth, a strange ritual is quietly taking place. A soft ripple across the dirt, barely noticeable, but filled with purpose. It's the call to action, and the ants are ready. Imagine the soft scrape of a tiny mandible on a leaf, or the shiver of movement through the earth. A colony is under threat. You might never notice, but it's there. Beneath your feet, in the forgotten spaces between blades of grass, an army is preparing. But this is no ordinary defense. This is a sacrifice. Still, it's not the queen or the worker ants who will make the ultimate gesture. No, it's the soldiers, the ones with jaws like pincers, with bodies built for the sole purpose of fighting. They are a particular breed, evolved for a very specific form of defense, and in this world they have one weapon that's as strange as it is deadly. These ants are called exploding ants. In moments of dire need, they do something no creature should. They rupture their own bodies, their insides turning into a sticky, viscous fluid that fills the air with a pungent scent. It's not their first choice, of course, but if the colony's survival is at stake, it becomes the only choice. At first, the idea is almost impossible to imagine that such a small, fragile creature could harness such violence against itself. Yet it happens. One push, one snap, and the soldier ant becomes a grenade. The body bursts, splattering its toxic contents onto the invader. A bold final act of courage. Even now, this bizarre sacrifice seems unreal, as though it's a legend born from some strange corner of the natural world. But it's not. It's a fact. Some ants, such as those of the Colobopsis genus, have evolved to do exactly this. Their bodies are literally designed to explode, and in doing so, they save the rest of the colony. The mechanics are delicate, a fine line between life and death. Inside the ant, a special sac is filled with a sticky toxic fluid. It's a weapon, something prepared long before the threat arrives. The ant, when needed, positions itself to become the last line of defense, ready to explode when the pressure is right. This process is violent and quick. A single squeeze, a single movement, and the ant's body is torn apart from the inside. The fluid, viscous and potent, is released into the air, suffocating or disorienting its enemies. For a moment the world seems to slow, caught in that single shuddering moment. Then all that remains is silence, the sacrifice complete. You might imagine the battlefield littered with these tiny ruptured bodies, but instead there's something more. The colony goes on. It adapts. The sacrifice of one has secured the safety of many. In that moment, the other ants gather, moving quickly to the next phase, carrying the wounded or preparing for what comes next. The colony's life continues, undisturbed, without much thought. You might have assumed ants are simple creatures, little more than busy workers, endlessly toiling. But these exploding ants, their purpose and the intensity of their defense, show a deeper side of their world. They aren't just mindless workers, but creatures with a profound connection to something greater than themselves. For those watching, it's almost as if the ants know the weight of their actions. There's no hesitation, no second thought. The explosion, the sacrifice, is done without a trace of doubt. It's simply a part of who they are, a pattern, repeated for the survival of the whole, a species-wide understanding of duty. This action is, in its essence, a stark reminder, of how far life will go to protect itself, to survive. In the ant's world, even the smallest life has a profound weight. It's not just about a single individual, but the survival of all who share the colony's name. It's the ultimate collective act. Somewhere on a hot afternoon, this is happening again. You might not notice, you probably never will. The undergrowth remains still silent, untouched, but somewhere in the soil, ants are preparing to do something unthinkable, something that speaks of their very essence, the defense of a life, of a home, no matter the cost. Maybe tomorrow you'll think of it, this tiny forgotten world where self-sacrifice is the ultimate expression of loyalty. Or maybe you never will, but somewhere quietly, it waits to happen again when the call to protect arises once more. The ants don't ask for attention, they don't need it. They do what they must, and once it's over, the world simply carries on, like nothing happened at all. It's the weight of a single foot pressing into the earth. The soft thud of a giant moving, not loud, but deep. There's something almost reluctant in the way their legs fold, almost as though they hesitate before lifting, sensing the burden of what they're about to do. It's not that they're slow, not at all. Their movements are deliberate, steady, grounded. But the moment you ask them to spring, just a little leap, it becomes impossible. They cannot push the ground away with the force needed. Every muscle, every tendon, has been sculpted not for jumping, but for holding their immense weight, steady. Even now when elephants run, their bodies remain in contact with the earth, their feet never leaving the surface. The whole of them is a careful balance, a perfect weight distribution that allows them to move forward, to support their size. But no matter how fast they might go, they never get the spring that smaller creatures seem to possess. The secret lies in their bones, a dense, thick structure, designed not for agility, but for endurance. Their legs, like massive pillars, curve downward, bearing not only their own weight, but the weight of their massive organs, their skin, the deepness of their bones. They carry this load for miles without much effort, but a jump would be asking too much. Their joints too are made for different work. Strong, not flexible. There's no spring in the ankle, no ability to bend and coil like a spring before releasing. Even the tendons in their legs are taut, set to hold, to bear, to support, not to quickly contract and release in the explosive way that allows for a jump. Still, the myths about elephants and jumping remain. Perhaps it's their sheer size that leads us to imagine they could leap across the savannah with a single bound. But it's not in them. Their weight is their strength, their endurance, and so they tread carefully, grounded, almost like they were designed for a different kind of world. Every step of an elephant is a commitment. To lift 1 foot off the ground, they must redistribute every ounce of weight, shift it carefully, then place it down again. The earth must feel their every move, but it's always a deliberate pressure. There's no room for the sudden snap of a leap, no room for flight. Even now in their natural habitat, they stand like living pillars, tall, steady, moving through their world with heavy, steady steps that create a rhythm in the land. In a way, their movement is the slowest form of strength. It's the sort of power that doesn't need to jump, to leap into action. It's already there, without much thought. An elephant's body is perfectly suited for its environment. The dense brush, the wide spaces, the long migrations, it doesn't need a jump to escape danger. It simply turns, and the earth beneath its feet moves with it. That's how they survive. By being a force unto themselves, never needing to defy gravity in ways that others do. You might have seen an elephant move in a way that seemed like a sudden burst of energy, but even when they charge, there's no lifting off the ground. It's as though the earth holds them with the kind of quiet understanding that says, you don't need to jump, you are far too solid for that. The way they rest is similar. There's no soaring into a comfortable position, no quick flopping into place. Instead, they fold themselves down carefully, their legs folding under their bodies with the same deliberation they use to rise. Rest is something earned, not something taken lightly. What's most fascinating is that they don't need to jump. Their strength comes in the long moments, every one spent walking, swaying, steady and solid on the ground. They carry everything with them, down to the last bit of pressure they place on the earth. Sometimes, it's the things that don't happen that tell the most about a creature. The way an elephant's foot never leaves the ground, the way it stays rooted, solid when others might leap. Perhaps that's the point. In a world that seems to move faster, the elephant shows us how much power there is in simply remaining, quiet, unyielding, but never needing to jump. The stillness of an elephant can be its greatest strength. The next time you see one, maybe you'll notice how little it needs to jump, or maybe you'll notice, like I did, that they never really leave the earth at all. Maybe you'll feel the ground shifting beneath you as you walk. Or maybe you won't, but you will never forget the way an elephant moves, steady, grounded, and strong. It simply waits, quiet, unchanged. It's early morning, and the air is thick with the quiet hum of stillness. The sun is still low, soft beams casting shadows between the trees. A small figure flits past, barely noticeable at first, until the wings beat faster. A blur, it hovers there suspended. The hummingbird. Barely visible to the casual observer, the tiny body dances in the air like a whisper. Its wings seem to pulse, vibrating with a speed that's almost too fast for the eye to follow. Every second, 1,000 movements. Each one lighter than a breath, less than a breath, less than a paperclip, even. In this fragile being, there is a paradox, a creature so small, so delicate, it defies the weight we assign to things. A hummingbird, on average, weighs around 0.07 ounces. That's not even close to the weight of a nickel. Barely more than a leaf, drifting on the breeze. Still, to most, a nickel is a small, almost inconsequential thing. It's barely even a thought in your pocket, but a nickel, it turns out, is far too heavy for a hummingbird. To be more precise, a single nickel weighs roughly 5 times more than the bird it hovers beside. Even now, this delicate creature moves between flowers, its wings beating so fast they are nothing more than a blur. The air around it seems to part in soft ripples as it darts from one bloom to another. Everything it does requires movement so rapid, it could almost be described as weightless. Without much thought, we assign weight to things based on their size. The bigger something is, the more we assume it weighs. Yet in nature, there are exceptions. A hummingbird's body is like a memory of what weight could be, but it never quite reaches the threshold. It floats, suspended by motion itself. You might have felt it, the fascination of how such a small creature can exist so effortlessly. But if you held one in your hand, you would barely notice its weight. You'd expect a sense of heaviness, of life held in your palm, yet in truth, it's lighter than you might ever imagine. It's almost as if it's meant to be seen, not held. A weightless thing that demands no space, but takes up the air itself. It exists only in motion. Its weightless beauty is not meant to be understood, but simply observed. It is the thinnest of threads holding itself in the balance of the world. And so, without pause, it moves, ever onward. A tiny marvel in the quiet morning light, never touching down for too long. Its flight a slow, fluid dance, a ballet of wings too fast to follow. Every beat a soft reminder that sometimes the smallest things weigh less than we ever notice. Even now, in the vastness of its world, the hummingbird is unburdened. It is just there, existing, taking no more from the air than what it needs. Its body, a whisper. The world, a gentle breeze that lets it move, light as a thought, light as air. Without a sound, the bird lifts higher, wings a blur. It's almost impossible to imagine something so small could hold its own in such an expansive world. But then again, that's what hummingbirds do. They remind us that the smallest things can sometimes move with the greatest grace. Perhaps you'll remember it tomorrow, when you look at the change in your pocket, the nickel, so solid, so heavy in comparison. Maybe then, you'll catch a fleeting thought of the bird too small to even feel the weight of its existence. Or perhaps not. Maybe you'll never notice. It doesn't ask for attention, it simply hovers there waiting. But it will never really leave, not from the memory of this soft moment. A hummingbird, weightless and free, moving on with a grace that needs no explanation. The surface of the water ripples ever so slightly, as though it were disturbed by an invisible force. The sunlight glints off of the calm surface, broken only by the faintest of movements, and then, in a blur, something seems to dance across it, not a leaf, not a twig, but something living. A lizard, running on the water. At first glance, it might seem like some strange optical illusion, a trick of the light or a figment of the mind. A creature as solid and substantial as a lizard shouldn't be able to skim across the surface of a pond. After all, a body like that doesn't just glide over water the way a droplet or an insect does. Yet, there it is, unmistakable. Swift, still there is something not entirely impossible about it. There's a science to this improbable act. The lizard, with its splayed toes and rapid motion, has found a way to use the surface tension of the water. A small force, but one enough to support the weight of this lizard as it sprints along the surface, its legs tapping out a rhythm of tiny splashes. At first, the idea might seem absurd. A creature typically bound to land, somehow defying the very nature of its environment. But there is a quiet understanding in the way this lizard moves. It doesn't try to fight the water. It uses it, it rides it, lightly, delicately, with grace almost like an insect. Even now, scientists still debate the specifics of this extraordinary feat. How much of it is physics? How much is biology? The lizard's legs, long and slender, touch the surface in just the right way, each movement timed perfectly to prevent sinking. But it's not just the legs that matter. It's the feet, which are uniquely structured to increase the surface area. This is a small detail, often unnoticed, yet crucial. The toes of these lizards fan out like a delicate web, a feature almost resembling the legs of a water strider. This simple adaptation allows the lizard to press down lightly, just enough to momentarily displace the water beneath, creating a cushion that keeps them above it. Without much thought, the lizard takes off across a shallow pond, its movements deliberate but swift, as if it knows exactly how much pressure to apply. There's a rhythm in this dance: too much weight, and the surface tension breaks; too little, and the lizard sinks. It finds the balance, and in that moment, it becomes something entirely different. But not every lizard can do this. Only a select few species are gifted with this ability. It's a peculiar trait, almost like a secret skill, known only to the ones who have evolved specifically for it. The aptly named basilisk lizard, often called the Jesus lizard, is one of the most famous. The name, perhaps more than anything else, hints at the awe this ability has inspired in human minds. The science behind it is more complex than just a few unique footpads. It's the way these lizards run, their legs almost skimming the surface as they push off again. The trick is not only in their design but in their speed. Each foot falls and springs with just the right force, each time as if timing the rhythm of the water itself. And there's something almost hypnotic about watching them. The way they glide across the water with such confidence, as if the surface is nothing more than a path they were always meant to follow. Their movement is like a pattern, almost like clockwork, yet fluid in a way that's difficult to describe. It's an effortless grace that defies logic, and still it is real. You might notice something else if you watch long enough. The splash of water around them is so fleeting, so small, that it almost doesn't seem like anything at all. They leave barely a trace, just a soft ripple, a hint of their passing. In moments, it's gone, as if they were never there at all. A quiet, invisible dance. As the lizard reaches the other side of the pond, its sprint slows, and it pauses. It stands still for just a moment, its tail flicking lightly. Then, without much thought, it returns to land. The water, no longer a challenge, becomes a mere afterthought. A brief crossing, nothing more. Maybe you'll think of that lizard the next time you see a body of water. Perhaps you'll notice, in the soft ripples, the possibility of something moving beneath the surface, or maybe you won't. It doesn't matter. The world moves with patterns like this, patterns so simple, they slip away unnoticed, until one moment when they don't. It begins with a sudden flicker of motion in the shadows, as though something elusive has just materialized from nowhere. The ground ripples with the smallest vibrations, and then there it is, a flash of bright, iridescent blue against the dull green of the jungle floor. A pause, silence, and then the dance begins. The bird shifts, its body seeming to freeze for a moment before its feathers burst into life. The colors bloom in impossible hues, black, blue, and an electric green that shimmers under the faintest light. With a slow, deliberate motion, the bird's chest rises, puffs, and expands like a balloon just before it bursts. The rhythm is slow, measured, like an ancient ritual. Still, the jungle holds its breath. The superb bird of paradise remains motionless for a heartbeat longer, its eyes locked onto the unseen audience. There is no sound, no rustle, just the taut pause before everything erupts. And then, with an abrupt movement, the bird launches into the air, an explosion of feathers, a flare of colors, a single perfect loop. You might have noticed it if you had been watching closely. The subtle shifting of the bird's stance, the careful adjustment of its wings. Even now, it's almost as if the bird is trying to catch the light, to reflect it at just the right angle. Every motion feels intentional, calculated, but there is a quietness in the chaos, a sense that this display is far older than it looks. The ground is littered with leaves, dry twigs crunching underfoot, but still it moves in silence. Without much thought, the bird's movements become more intricate. Each display feels like a secret, carefully unfolding, its beauty not meant for any but the right observer. It is not just a show, it is an invitation, a performance with only one possible audience. And yet there is no applause, no recognition. The bird's dance is not for us. It is for one very specific thing, a mate. The jungle breathes, almost imperceptibly, and so does the bird. The only sounds are its wings slicing the air, a soft hum as it shifts again, preparing for the next act. You might think that this is just nature at play, a simple biological function unfolding in the most colorful of ways. But something about the bird's movements, the way it seems to shape the air with its wings, the way its feathers catch the light, suggests something more. It's not just instinct, it's artistry. And for a moment, you could almost imagine that the bird understands it too. The performance, though it may not last long, is unforgettable. It is an echo of something primal, a need to connect, to be seen, to create something fleeting but perfect. And when it is over, the bird settles back into the undergrowth as if nothing had ever happened. Yet the ground beneath it holds the memory, and the shadows remember the shape of the dance. Even as the bird fades back into the quiet of the jungle, it carries something with it, something that was left behind in the brief space between flight and stillness. A piece of time, suspended. As the bird moves into the shadows, unnoticed, there is a quiet sense that the entire spectacle was an illusion, a brief flicker of light in an otherwise still world. You might never see it again, but somewhere in the forest it is happening again and again. Maybe tomorrow, or next year, the bird will return, or maybe it won't. It simply waits, quiet, unchanged. The water is warm. It ripples gently, as if the ocean itself is whispering. Beneath the surface, there's a quiet flurry of movement, a swift dance between bodies, sleek and fluid. The sound is soft, a clicking, a whistling, something musical, something human, almost. But it's not. It's dolphins. They move together like old friends, side by side, navigating the waves with a sense of belonging. It's not just the waves they follow, it's each other, and within this unspoken dance, there's something more, something deeper. A sound that calls to them, pulls them toward one another, an unmistakable call. The click comes again, a whistling sound rising from the deep. It's a name, though it doesn't sound like one. The sound isn't a word in the way we understand it, yet it holds the same weight. It's a signal, an invitation perhaps, or a request. It's a name, but it's not just any name. In the world of dolphins, a name isn't something they share casually. No, it's a personal call, a bond, something tied to identity itself. When one dolphin calls out to another, it's with a unique sound, a call meant only for them, meant to summon them. Still, these names don't echo like ours do. They aren't learned through repetition or given by tradition. These names are something a little more natural. Each dolphin produces a specific whistle, one that they alone respond to. Their call, unique, unduplicated, exists only for them, a mark of their place in the world, their role among the others. Without much thought, they answer. There is no questioning. When a dolphin calls, another dolphin answers, its name filling the water between them, carried like a secret current through the waves. There's no doubt, no hesitation. It's simply known. This naming, it doesn't feel like a system, nor like we might expect. It doesn't need a chart, nor a database. It doesn't require a list or a label. It's simpler, a more organic approach to connection, one that we perhaps wish we could emulate, a call, a sound. And the world shifts just a little bit. Even now the waters ripple with these personal calls, these invitations, these questions, each individual marked not by sight or smell, but by sound. A name, but a sound all the same, something like music, something like breath. These names are living things, born of the sea, of the dolphin's call, of their world. The echoes remain, long after the call. Not a memory, but an invitation left hanging in the air, waiting for the next click, the next whistle. Something so simple, something so deep. And as the waters stretch on, those names, never repeated, fill the ocean's expanse, lingering in the current. They're not spoken aloud, but they carry through the currents, through the waves, through the very water itself. Each name holds something, a bond, a place in the world. It's a world where sounds do more than just exist. They live, they connect, they create the ties that bind each individual to the whole. A dolphin's name doesn't need to be heard by any other creature. The only thing that matters is that the call is answered. And so when it comes, it's responded to. A quick shift, a flick of a tail, and the dolphin moves closer, instinctively drawn to its name, its sound, its connection. It is simply the way of things. Dolphins call out to each other, not because they must, but because they know the name is enough. No need for meaning beyond the sound. The name is all there is. And that's enough. Maybe you'll notice it tomorrow. Or maybe you never will. There's something strange about the way certain creatures work. A quiet puzzle hiding behind their designs, unnoticed by many. The platypus is one of those creatures, a strange little animal, with the body of a mammal, yet the bill of a bird, the webbed feet of a duck, and a tail like a beaver. But there's something even stranger. It doesn't have a stomach. You may have wondered why. After all, it's a mammal, isn't it? A creature that should follow the rules. It should have that familiar rounded shape inside, a place where food is broken down, absorbed, and processed. But it doesn't. Instead, this oddity of nature works differently. Without much thought, you could glance at its anatomy and assume the platypus is just like any other mammal. Fur, warmth, mammary glands. But what you might miss is its strange, uncluttered digestive system, one that lacks the classic stomach many of us take for granted. It's a quiet, unnoticed feature. Still, this absence doesn't mean it doesn't eat. The platypus hunts and forages in its aquatic environment, diving beneath the water to search for small invertebrates, crustaceans, and worms. But instead of sending these things to a stomach, the platypus simply digests them through a more direct route. There's no compartmentalizing, no waiting. It just goes straight through. When it eats, the food travels to the intestines, where digestion begins. The platypus doesn't need a stomach to break down food slowly. Its small intestine takes over the task instead. It's all streamlined, efficient, a design that makes sense in the context of a creature constantly on the move, looking for its next meal, and not taking time to linger. Even now, when you think of digestion, you probably picture something more familiar. A stomach, a sac-like space, a place where food sits before it continues down the line. But the platypus, living in the murky waters of its Australian homes, doesn't need the pause of digestion. The food simply continues. It's almost like the platypus decided to skip a step, shedding something unnecessary for survival. Instead of holding food in a stomach, it moves everything directly into the intestines, where absorption takes place quickly and efficiently. Time is precious when you're a creature that spends much of your life underwater, hunting for your next meal. This lack of a stomach is a rare feature in mammals, almost like a secret tucked away from the eyes of those who believe all mammals must follow the same rules. A surprise. In fact, there are a few other creatures that follow this same pattern, though none so uniquely strange as the platypus. Without that stomach, there is less of a need for a variety of digestive enzymes. The platypus's body simply adapts, making it one of nature's quieter solutions to the complexities of digestion. It doesn't need to process things in a way most mammals do. The food comes, and it's immediately handled. You might notice that, with no stomach, the platypus also has no need to chew its food as thoroughly as we might. The soft, rubbery bill it uses to scoop up small animals is perfect for its diet. There's no need for long processes, just the quick, direct consumption of energy. A rhythm unbroken by unnecessary steps. The platypus remains unchanged by time. It does not need the digestive pauses we've come to expect in other mammals. No stomach to fill, no stomach to empty. Instead, it swims, hunts, and digests in its own, uninterrupted flow. Perhaps it knows something about efficiency that the rest of us are still figuring out. Even now, the platypus continues its quiet existence. It doesn't rush, but neither does it stop. It's a creature that moves through the world with a different kind of rhythm, a pace defined by necessity, not convention. Its design is one of nature's many mysteries, a constant reminder that not everything is what it seems. Maybe the platypus never needed a stomach. Maybe it was always meant to exist this way, without the need for extra compartments. Its simplicity, in that regard, is a kind of mastery, a perfectly honed answer to its environment. But there is no real answer, only an unfolding quiet evolution. You might catch a glimpse of a platypus sometime, maybe on a nature documentary, or perhaps in a local zoo. And in that moment, you might wonder again just how strange it is that this little creature, so full of life and energy, simply doesn't need a stomach. It doesn't ask for attention, but it never really leaves. Without much thought, you might have noticed it, the soft turning of a bird's head as it watches you from the edge of a field or the hollow of a tree. It's the owl, its neck stretching like a slow creak from the shadows, turning further than you'd expect, turning more than most creatures could. It's a movement that has captured curiosity for centuries. In some ways, it feels almost unnatural, a kind of ghostly, eerie twist. If you observe it, you might wonder just how far the owl can really turn its head. Could it turn all the way around? Could it? Most birds have a limited range when it comes to head movement, constrained by their anatomy. But the owl, with its subtle grace, moves in a way that defies what you'd think possible. Its neck can rotate up to 270 degrees. That's 3/4 of a full circle, more than enough to give it a clear view in every direction. Still, that's not the whole story. The true marvel lies not in how far it can turn, but how it does so. An owl's head turns as if guided by an invisible hand, as if the bird's body is frozen while its eyes continue to explore. The bones of the neck, more flexible than most, allow for this delicate motion. Even now you might wonder how this twisting works. The owl's neck has 14 vertebrae. Most birds, including us, have only 7. That extra length allows for a much wider range of motion, with each vertebra carefully designed to interlock and pivot, one after the other, enabling such an elegant spin. Yet there's more. The owl doesn't simply rely on a long neck. Its circulatory system, too, is uniquely adapted. Blood vessels run through the neck, surrounded by special grooves. These grooves keep the blood flow steady, even when the head rotates in those wide arcs. It's almost as though the bird was designed to turn, to pivot, and scan. Without much thought, you've probably seen this in action. Perhaps in a darkened room, or across a quiet field in the dimming light. You know the owl. It watches silently, its face turned just so, its eyes locked in place. The body remains still while the head turns, an uncanny motion like something from another world. Even when it does not move, the owl's neck is working. Muscles tense, joints bend and twist in ways that would seem impossible to us. The turning is smooth, slow, almost deliberate. There's no hurry, no rush. The owl simply watches, turning its gaze wherever it needs to. And then it rests, still, observing. A creature of patience. You might have thought it was simply about hunting. But it's more than that. The owl's extraordinary range of head movement serves as a survival tool. For it, the night is vast, and the shadows are thick, but the owl's head never has to shift much. It can see, hear, sense everything around it from a single spot. In fact, the owl's ears play a role in this quiet observation. Unlike most animals, owls have asymmetrical ears, positioned at different heights on their heads. This allows them to pinpoint the slightest sound, even if it's coming from the most unlikely direction. The head turns, and suddenly, all the information comes together. Even as you think about it, there's something mesmerizing about the owl's way of being. The way it does not rush to see, but rather simply turns, patient, deliberate. The owl holds its ground, its neck moving only when it needs to. And so it sees everything from the rustle in the leaves to the motion in the branches above. When you witness this movement, there's a moment of quiet wonder, a silent, inexplicable awe. You realize just how many animals have designed their bodies to thrive in specific ways. The owl's flexibility and quiet precision remind us that nature has 1,000 ways to adapt, to turn and see things from a place of stillness, and still the owl waits. It doesn't ask for attention, but it never really leaves. The way it turns, the way it watches, it simply remains, silent, steady, always turning, always observing. Maybe you'll notice it tomorrow, or maybe you never will. But the owl, in its endless turning, is always waiting for you to see it. There's a strange sound that comes with a snail's movement, isn't there? It's not the soft shift of its body across the surface, it's more subtle, the delicate scrape, a faint, almost imperceptible noise, like something tiny working at stone. And there it is, that quiet sound, as the snail glides across the surface of your windowsill, its body moving in ways you've never noticed before. But perhaps you've never looked that closely, not to its tongue. Most don't. We're distracted by the slow, rhythmic pace of the creature, captivated by its graceful, liquid motion. But inside that delicate, fragile mouth lies something more, a tongue covered in thousands of tiny teeth. And not just teeth, but a structure, designed for tearing, grinding, a kind of microscopic machinery. A mouth that doesn't resemble anything we know. It's called a radula, a rasping organ, unique to mollusks. It looks almost like a comb, except it's lined with rows upon rows of these sharp microscopic teeth. Each tooth is so small, so fine, that we rarely think to look at them. They're hidden within, just beneath the surface, working in ways we've never imagined. Still, they're there. If you were to magnify this tiny world, you would see them. The radula gliding across whatever surface the snail is feeding on, tearing particles into smaller bits, like some secretive slow-motion machine. These teeth are not meant for cutting in the way we think about sharpness. No, their purpose is more intricate. They grind and scrape, a quiet, constant action, reducing the world around them, bit by bit. Even now those teeth are working, invisible to most of us, breaking down whatever lies in their path. And it's not just plant matter. If the snail were to graze on something harder, perhaps even a stone, those teeth would still scrape and wear away, leaving traces that remain unnoticed. The radula is a silent worker, its teeth like soft, persistent whispers against time. Without much thought, you might see the snail as a simple creature, an almost fragile wanderer. Yet beneath the surface of that soft, glistening exterior, it holds a world of complexity. It's a creature that has evolved to survive on the smallest scale, in ways we often overlook. The teeth, those tiny parts of the snail's body, are not just for feeding, they're part of an intricate design, a lifelong companion that enables the snail to navigate its environment. It's odd, isn't it? We watch the snail for its simplicity, the way it moves, its slowness, its fragility. We rarely consider the machinery hidden just beneath its surface, the gears that turn so gently, so quietly. Perhaps it's because we are so focused on the visible world that we fail to see how much is happening beneath it. The hidden teeth, invisible in action, are part of a system we can hardly comprehend. You might have noticed, too, the way a snail's path leaves behind a glistening trail. It's a signature, a mark of its passage. But what's fascinating is that this trail is just as deliberate. The slime it leaves behind is not random. It's a map, a fluid path that allows the snail to move across surfaces, adhering as it goes. Still, that trail, too, connects back to the radula, those hidden teeth, grinding and scraping, to make room for the snail's slow, deliberate journey. Even in that seemingly innocent, gliding path, there's a purpose you might not have noticed. It's all connected, all part of a careful design. A creature so simple on the outside, but inside, its hidden teeth, that tiny mechanical world inside its mouth, show just how much goes into what we see. Perhaps it's not so simple after all. Without much thought, you might see the snail as a simple wanderer, but its design tells a different story. It's a creature that has been perfected over time, each part of it serving a purpose, even the tiny teeth inside its tongue. Every movement, every subtle detail, speaks of a longer, quieter story, and yet the teeth, those delicate, barely visible structures, remain largely unexamined by the world. They do their job, day after day, without any need for attention. Perhaps they don't need to be noticed. Maybe they simply exist to serve their purpose, and in their silence, they offer their own kind of quiet perfection. It's the kind of detail you might miss if you don't take the time to look, to listen. And yet, if you did, you might find yourself caught in the rhythm of that tiny secret world. It doesn't ask for your attention. It simply does its work, grinding away, silently shaping its path. Maybe you'll notice the next time you see a snail, or maybe you won't, but the teeth will still be there, hidden beneath the surface, performing their quiet task. And for that brief moment you'll wonder, perhaps just for a moment, how many other tiny worlds are hidden in plain sight, waiting to be discovered. The surface of the water, rippling gently in the quiet glow of moonlight, betrays something strange. A slow, steady movement, almost imperceptible, as though something is waiting, suspended in time. Beneath the calm, a creature drifts, not really alive, not really dead. It's as though it never needs to decide, never needs to choose. You've seen them, I'm sure, floating, pulsing, gliding through the dark blue of the ocean, translucent and beautiful, like drifting clouds made of glass. They move slowly, their bodies a blur of soft, delicate threads. They are ancient, having survived for over 500 million years. And yet there is something far more fascinating about them than their strange, fragile appearance. In a way, these creatures have never really left the past. They exist in a perpetual state of becoming, without ever having to change. Jellyfish have a curious secret, hidden beneath the waves where the light can't reach. A certain species, Turritopsis darni, has learned how to cheat time itself. It can, quite literally, live forever. The process is simple, really. When this jellyfish is injured or aging, it doesn't just die. No, it does something far more unusual. It transforms, it reverts back to its earliest form, a tiny, undifferentiated cluster of cells. And from there it can begin again. This reversal doesn't require any external force, no magic or special energy. It simply happens, without much thought. It's as though the jellyfish has the ability to restart, to begin the cycle once more. A small loop, back into youth, free from the confines of time. It's a biological trick, simple and quiet, hidden in plain sight. The jellyfish doesn't seek out this transformation. It just does it, as though the world has forgotten how it's supposed to work. Still, there's something deeply unsettling in the idea of something being ageless, living without the need for death, like a constant whisper of movement across the surface of the water. We think of life as a forward motion, something that always moves in one direction, from beginning to end. But this jellyfish reminds us, perhaps some things never need to move at all. Even now it lingers. Some say it's the secret to immortality, though it's not quite that simple. The jellyfish can't escape harm, nor can it outlive every predator. But still, the process exists. It's a trick of biology, something so small that we might never have noticed it unless we were looking for it. The idea that something can simply reverse its aging, step back into the past, is both beautiful and strange. We watch the world go on steadily, knowing that time cannot be undone. And yet, here is this creature, a reminder that time itself can be unmade, if only for a moment. A quiet rebellion against nature's laws. In the ocean, it's more common to find creatures who never seem to change. Crabs, clams, the occasional sea turtle. But this jellyfish, it is the perfect paradox, suspended in time. It offers no grand answers. It simply exists, flowing beneath the waves, a quiet whisper of life that keeps cycling, undisturbed. Without much thought, the jellyfish does not move through time. It moves in time, as though each moment exists only once, and yet it can return. It doesn't know it's doing anything unusual. It doesn't know it's escaping. It just is, and for it, that's all that matters. Some say immortality isn't a blessing. They claim that to live forever would be an endless burden, an existence devoid of meaning. But the jellyfish doesn't seem to mind. It simply moves. It doesn't ask for more. Its body is fluid, its thoughts non-existent. It doesn't question what it is. It just keeps on drifting. A soft ripple, a small pause in the water, somewhere beneath the surface. The jellyfish waits. Perhaps it waits for nothing at all. Or perhaps it waits for the next moment of change. After all, for it, there's no hurry. Time is but a gentle current, a wave that washes through the ocean, undisturbed. Maybe it's not immortality that we crave. Maybe it's the feeling of endless possibility, of endless change. A quiet loop that never asks anything of us except to simply keep going. The jellyfish, in its infinite calm, might be the perfect expression of that desire, not for life without end, but for the freedom to keep beginning. It doesn't demand attention, it simply moves. The jellyfish can live forever, but only because it knows how to stop. It knows how to pause. It knows how to rest and begin again. A constant reminder that life doesn't always need to be forward-moving. Sometimes, it simply waits, quiet, unchanged. There's a quiet rhythm beneath the earth. If you ever find yourself in a patch of eucalyptus trees, where the air is thick with scent and the ground is soft with moss, you might not notice the small, sturdy creatures beneath the surface, building their world in silence. Still, if you were to pause and listen closely, you'd hear it, a slow, deliberate movement of earth. It's the work of a wombat. The sound, subtle at first, is the shifting of soil as it tunnels deeper, carving out spaces that are as intricate as they are hidden. These tunnels are not random. They are precise, complex. A wombat doesn't just dig, it designs. You might imagine the wombat's burrow as a simple solitary hole in the ground, but the truth is, it's far more than that. Underground beneath the soft curve of the Australian landscape, a system exists, not unlike a labyrinth, but purposeful. Every turn, every chamber is crafted with intention. The entrance itself is just the beginning. A wombat's tunnel system spreads out like veins beneath the earth, some short, others stretching far. The burrows are not just for shelter, but for survival. Every chamber is a room designed for a specific need. One may serve as a safe sleeping nook, another as a cool, shaded retreat on a hot day. Even now, when most of the world is unaware, wombats are at work, digging, expanding, and fortifying their homes. They dig with surprising speed and efficiency. Their paws, built for stability, work together like an engineer's tools, each clawed finger pushing aside the earth, creating space where there was none before. Without much thought, the wombat also shapes its home for security. The burrows are cleverly constructed with multiple exits, allowing the wombat to escape danger if needed. There's no room for hesitation or wasted energy. The burrow has to be just right, functioning and ready for whatever the world above may bring. It's remarkable, though, for all their simplicity, wombats don't need blueprints or guides. It's instinct, finely tuned over thousands of years. They sense the soil, they test the earth, they know exactly where to dig. There's no trial and error, just a quiet assurance in their work. Each burrow is lined with bedding, made from grasses and leaves. The wombat's choice of materials is particular, selecting only the best to line the floor of its tunnels. And then, as the sun rises, it moves with purpose. Each step underground serves a quiet, timeless need. The tunnels are a home and a fortress, a haven from the world above. But there's more to these underground systems than meets the eye. Over time, the wombat's burrow becomes part of the ecosystem. Other creatures, small mammals and insects, find refuge in the wombat's tunnels. It's a quiet community that thrives in the wombat's wake. As the years go by, the earth above shifts and changes. Eucalyptus trees fall, and rivers rise and fall. Yet below the surface, the wombat's burrow endures, constantly adjusted, constantly maintained. It's an underground world that seems untouched by time. Maybe you've seen it, or maybe you haven't. But imagine walking through the Australian bush, your feet brushing against the soft soil, and then, just for a moment, feeling the earth shift. It's subtle. The tunnel system, hidden beneath you, carries on, unchanged, unnoticed by most. Sometimes, even in the busiest moments, we overlook the quiet systems beneath us. The wombat's tunnels remind us of the intricate work happening under the surface, even when it's out of sight. There's something comforting in that, the knowledge that while we're distracted by the world above, there's a world below, moving steadily, constantly, just as it always has. And as the day fades into night, the wombat retreats into its carefully crafted burrow. The earth settles once again, quiet, unchanged. It doesn't ask for attention, but it never really leaves. The water's surface is still, reflecting the dimming light of the setting sun. Beneath, shadows move. A school of fish glides by, their fins cutting through the water with effortless grace. Yet within the quiet depths, something far more complex is happening, a quiet transformation, unnoticed by the casual observer. In a distant corner of the ocean, a hierarchy is at work. It's not a soundless game, but a dance of position, shifting like the tides. Amongst the fish, the roles are not always fixed. The dominant, the leader, shifts with the currents. The quiet power of social structure forms the very essence of their lives. There's one fish, a particular species, that might surprise you. They can change their very being, their sex, depending on their place in the social order. When the dominant female is no longer present, the male steps up, but not just in spirit. No, the transformation is far more tangible. He becomes her, taking on her form, her role. At first, this seems impossible. How can one creature, defined by its biology, alter itself so completely? Still, in the sea, this quiet rebellion of nature occurs with astonishing regularity. It's not an anomaly, it's a survival strategy. The social structure dictates the change, an unspoken rule written in the water itself. The process is gradual. A male begins the transition, a silent reshaping that only the fish know. His body undergoes subtle shifts, altering its internal chemistry. Cells, once geared for male function, adjust, growing in response to the absence of their leader. His body changes to reflect the new role he must now play. And it's not just about appearance. The very nature of the fish's behavior alters. It's as if the social expectations take root deep within, and those once dormant instincts stir to life. The fish adjusts its mannerisms, its movements. It adopts the posture and actions of the missing female. What began as a male is now a new force in the hierarchy. Even now, this transformation is not completely understood. The triggers, the cues, are subtle, almost imperceptible to human eyes. It happens in the quiet of the deep, where the boundaries between species and gender blur into a soft flowing current of survival. It is not forced, it is a quiet acceptance of what must be done. The question remains, why? Why is it so important that this transformation occurs? There's a purpose to this fluidity. When a dominant female is removed, the social structure would falter, a void would form. Without much thought, nature steps in, ensuring that the social hierarchy remains intact, continuing its silent march through time. There's something deeply fascinating in this. A creature that can reinvent itself to preserve order, to keep balance. It's as if the fish, in its deepest essence, understands the need to evolve with the shifting tides. The world around them is in constant flux, and so too must they be. Adaptation becomes not just survival, but a natural, unspoken law. When the new female takes her place, it's not an end but a continuation. The fish, now fully transformed, stands as the leader once again, fulfilling its new role in the school. There's no break in the cycle. The ripples from the past dissolve, and the group continues to glide forward, as if nothing ever changed. Still, one can't help but wonder what else in nature is shifting quietly in response to the world around it. What other creatures, without the loud declarations of the world above, are adjusting their very beings to survive? These transformations remain hidden, beneath the surface, only noticed by those who look deeply enough to see. The sea remains calm, an endless stage for these quiet revolutions. Beneath the surface, life continues its delicate dance, never quite still. The water is always moving, changing, and in that movement, something new is always waiting to emerge, quietly, unseen, until the moment it must be revealed. And so perhaps it always will be. The roles shift, the beings change, and yet the current never stops. It simply waits, quiet, unchanged. There's a strange stillness in the earth, buried beneath, where the world is unfamiliar. Beneath layers of soil, behind the roots and rocks, lives a creature unlike many others. Quiet, hidden, and oddly ancient, it's small, pale, and smooth. A naked mole rat, but there's something different about this one. Even now in the silent darkness, these small naked creatures dig. They tunnel through the earth, their lives spent beneath the surface, separated from the world most creatures know. In the confined space, they do not feel the sharp sting of their efforts, no discomfort from the scraping of stone, nor the sharp bite of acid. It's easy to imagine the world as it would feel for something like this, to feel a pinch of pain, a searing ache from a scrape, or the sting of a wound. But the naked mole rat, they don't know these sensations. Their skin is not like ours, and their nerve endings are different. Still, when exposed to something that should cause immense pain, like acid, these creatures are calm. A drip of sulfuric acid might burn through the skin of most animals, but not these quiet tunnelers. They feel nothing. This doesn't come from some sort of hardened exterior, like an armor, but from something deeper, more mysterious. The answer lies in their biology. Beneath the surface, beneath the pale skin, their bodies have adapted in ways that seem almost too strange to be real. Their nervous system is different. Their pain receptors, those delicate pathways in the body that would send a signal to the brain, are dulled, unresponsive to what would be considered an injury in most creatures. They simply don't react. Without much thought, you might wonder how it came to be. Perhaps it's a gift, or maybe a quiet necessity for survival. These creatures live in a world without sunlight, where tunnels can be tight and unforgiving. They move through the earth like a current of unseen water, never knowing the sensation of danger that other animals might experience. You might not even realize how far back this survival trick stretches, how ancient their ability truly is. It's as if the naked mole rat holds some forgotten secret, a link to the deep past, where survival was built on differences we might never understand. In their world, there is no rush, no urgency, no need for sensation. Even now, their world continues in a quiet flow, as they dig deeper into the earth. Their colony is a well-oiled machine, working without pain or fear. The acid, the injuries that might leave scars, do not leave them gasping in pain. There is only more digging, more tunneling. This strange, nearly immortal way of life carries on unnoticed. Still, they are not impervious to all harm. Though they can withstand acid, their existence isn't perfect. Their world, too, has its dangers. And yet, this odd immunity, this strange feature of their physiology, is enough to make them seem invincible. In their dark, hidden world, they live without the burdens others bear. You might have seen them before, in cages or under glass, their pale skin shimmering in the artificial light. It's hard to look at them without wondering what their life must feel like, what it must be like to live without the pain we experience. It's a curious thing, to live without fear of harm, without pain. Do they understand danger the same way other creatures do? Or is it just another layer of existence, where the world passes by without making a sound? For them, there are no sharp pangs to warn of threats. The world is quieter, deeper, and perhaps more mysterious than we'll ever fully grasp. Without much thought, you realize how little we know about these creatures, how much of their world remains hidden from us, sealed beneath the surface. We watch from the outside, curious about how they live, about how they experience life without pain. But the answer, it's something we can never truly touch. As they tunnel, as they continue to carve through the earth, there is a calmness in their movements, an absence of haste. Their world is one where pain doesn't intrude. It's a soft, muted existence, stretching beneath our feet, unnoticed and unbroken. Maybe, as we walk above, we'll never feel the earth in the same way as they do. Perhaps, tomorrow, when you step outside, you'll pause just a little longer. Maybe, you'll wonder about the soft, quiet creatures beneath the soil, or maybe you won't. Perhaps it simply waits, quiet, unchanged. A quiet chill fills the air, the kind that sits on the skin. The sound of crunching snow underfoot is the only interruption to the stillness. High up in the icy, wind-swept expanse, a penguin lowers its body. Its knees bend gently, touching the snow, a small yet profound gesture. Still, the winds don't stop. The penguin doesn't rush. It sits there for a moment, holding its position, unbothered by the cold or the vast, empty land. But then another penguin appears, drawn in by the movement. There's something in that posture, a soft appeal in the way the penguin kneels. Even now it's easy to miss the significance of this moment. In the rush of the world, it would be easy to overlook such a small, deliberate act. But for penguins, this gesture is everything. It's how they ask, how they make their hearts known in a land where love has to be earned. Without much thought, the penguin rises. The mate, witnessing the gesture, understands its meaning. A simple, intimate movement, the penguin has offered something, not just the bending of the knee, but the very act of lowering itself, submitting perhaps, to the ritual of courtship. It's the beginning of a dance, a shared moment. This small act, performed by millions of penguins across frozen continents, holds within it an ancient language. A silent song of sorts. Penguins don't speak as we do. They don't rely on words, but on gestures. The bending of the knee speaks louder than anything. It shows vulnerability, submission, and connection. The courtship, though seemingly simple, is a powerful symbol. It's not about domination, it's a mutual recognition, a quiet understanding that builds over time. Penguins don't need to chase, instead they kneel. In doing so, they invite the other to come closer, to see them in their truest form, to connect in a place where the cold might otherwise push them apart. Still, the meaning of the knee is not immediately clear to all. To an outsider, the penguin may seem like it's simply sitting, a strange posture amid a world of harsh winds and snow. But the penguin's knee is more than that. It's a moment of pause before the rush, a deep, mindful offering, full of silent purpose. Even now, many of the world's creatures don't understand the significance of such a moment. They don't see the importance of kneeling, of lowering themselves in such a vulnerable way. But for penguins, this is how they show they care. They don't fight or shout. They offer their gentleness, held in the curve of a knee. The land around them is unforgiving. Yet the penguin moves with quiet grace, bending not to the forces of nature, but to the dance of life. There's no rush, no sense of urgency. Instead, there's a quiet patience, a space between movements that is held with intent. Kneeling is the way they show respect for what could be. This moment, shared only by a few, will soon pass, just like everything else in the world. But for a penguin, this pause, this gesture, is a way of saying, I'm here, I'm open, I'm waiting. It's not about a grand show or loud declarations. It's the softest of gestures, carried through time by those who know the value of stillness. Perhaps it's a bit strange, this act of kneeling, in a world where so many things are done with words or loud actions, but for penguins, in their silent world, it says everything. It's the language of simplicity, of trust, of an understanding that doesn't need to be vocalized, just felt. A gesture of heart, quietly echoing. Even now we might not understand it entirely. We might see it as odd or unnecessary. But what if that's the point? What if in this small subtle motion, there's a reminder that love too doesn't always need to shout. Sometimes it just needs to bend, to pause, and to be offered in a quiet, humble way. As the penguin rises, its mate approaches. There's no need for words, no noise. It's just the moment, held between them. A simple, small offering. The gesture lingers, a soft moment between two creatures that need nothing more than this pause, and then it fades. It simply waits, quiet, unchanged. There's a sound that punctuates the stillness of the forest. It starts suddenly, sharp and rhythmic. Tap, tap, tap. The woodpecker is at work. Its head moves with precision, each strike echoing like a tiny drumbeat against the trunks of ancient trees. The force seems impossible, yet it continues, unbroken. Still, as you listen to the tapping, you might wonder, how does it manage this? The speed, the power, the repeated strikes, the forceful impact. For any other creature, it would be unthinkable, dangerous even. But not for the woodpecker. It strikes with abandon, its body unfazed by the shock that would rattle any human brain. The brain of the woodpecker, while not particularly large, is perfectly built to withstand this pounding. Its skull, unlike ours, is designed with shock-absorbing structures. The brain sits snugly inside, with a cushion of spongy tissue that protects it. It's not just that the woodpecker's head is hard, it's also how it absorbs the shock. Even now, if you picture the woodpecker's rhythmic drumming, the sheer force of it seems enough to cause damage. But somehow it doesn't. The skull's structure plays a role. It has an extra layer of bone, a form of protection. This dense, compact layer helps absorb the force, dissipating it before it can reach the brain. Without much thought, you might assume that such rapid, forceful movement would harm the creature, even if it's designed for it. Yet this unique design is only part of the story. The woodpecker's brain itself is small, tucked in, and stabilized by connective tissue that prevents it from bouncing inside the skull. It stays firmly in place. Still, the real genius lies in how the bird manages the force of its strikes. Each peck, though powerful, is controlled. It doesn't strike directly, but rather in a way that redirects the shock. The muscles in its neck work to dissipate some of the force, while its beak, acting as a lever, absorbs another part. Imagine for a moment the fluidity of this movement. The bird doesn't slam its head into the tree, it strikes with purpose. Each tap is followed by a slight, almost imperceptible pause. This allows the energy to be dispersed, a subtle shift in technique, ensuring that the head remains steady, balanced, untouched by the violence of the blow. Even now, if you watch a woodpecker at work, it's hard to comprehend the intricacies involved. To see the bird move, to hear the taps, you might never notice the calculations in its body. The way each muscle coordinates to protect what could so easily be harmed. But it happens, naturally, without any thought on the bird's part. Perhaps it's this quiet perfection in movement that fascinates the most. A rapid cycle of strikes, followed by a tiny shift, a perfect reset. The woodpecker's body doesn't recoil after each tap, as you might expect. Instead, it remains steady, unwavering, its brain, its skull, its muscles all working in harmony. Still, there's something hypnotic about the way it all unfolds. The way the body absorbs the shock, how it balances the violent rhythm of the world with a careful, measured response. Every strike, every movement seems like it could unravel, yet it doesn't. The balance is there, maintained effortlessly. Even now, as you think about the movement, it seems almost alien in its precision. How the bird dances with danger, strikes without hesitation, and never seems to falter. The force is real, but so is the protection. A hidden dance of physics and biology that allows this strange ritual to continue without harm. Without much thought, the woodpecker moves on. It drifts from one tree to the next, tapping, drilling, all the while its body working in quiet partnership with the tree. No hesitation, no overthinking, just another tap, another strike. It's as though the bird is in tune with a rhythm that requires no effort, no explanation. It simply is. Even as you picture it now, perhaps it feels more like a dream than reality. This creature, seemingly bound by the harsh forces of nature, is moving through them as though it were gliding. It seems too delicate for its task, too fragile to withstand the weight of each blow, yet it continues, unwavering. In a way, it seems like the tapping never truly stops. The cycle repeats itself, and with it the woodpecker remains steady. Each tap is a note in a song, one that is performed over and over, endlessly. The rhythm of the bird is timeless, a steady hum beneath the forest canopy. Still, the woodpecker's work is never done. It continues tapping, striking, never once faltering. The secret lies not in the force, nor the speed. It lies in the subtlety, the careful balance. The way each action is designed to protect and preserve, the way the bird seems to know exactly what it needs to do, with no wasted effort, and maybe that's the most fascinating part. The quiet assurance of it all, the way the woodpecker lives inside this rhythm, existing between force and protection. The tapping never stops, but neither does the balance. It's as though, no matter how hard it strikes, the bird will always find its way. Quietly, steadily, without breaking. Maybe tomorrow you'll hear the tapping again, or maybe you never will, but you might wonder, as you walk beneath the trees, how such a small creature can move with such power, how it can live in perfect balance with the forces that surround it. And in the stillness that thought will linger. It's the soft, unspoken kind of rustle in the air, something just beyond your immediate notice. The wind shifts slightly, sending a quiet ripple through the trees. Among the branches, a bird hops lightly from one perch to another, its feathers ruffling briefly before it stills, eyes sharp, and then it moves again. You might not have paid it much attention. A scrub jay, perhaps. A flash of blue in the underbrush. They're common enough in a way, but their presence, their movements, have a purpose. Beneath that simple exterior lies something more curious, more deliberate than you might think. Still, for all their seeming casualness, these birds carry with them a strange and complex ability. It's not just instinct that guides their actions. No, there's a depth to how they act, how they remember. They don't just survive by memory, they thrive by it. And it goes far beyond what you might expect. Imagine just for a moment what it would be like to have to remember where you've hidden food, to store it in secret, to carefully choose a place, every detail counted. Most animals rely on instinct, but the scrub jay doesn't just rely on its gut feeling, it remembers with a clarity most of us can only dream of. Without much thought, you might assume all animals have some form of memory. But for scrub jays, it's not just memory, it's the ability to plan for the future. These birds are capable of remembering where they've hidden food, not just for hours or days, but weeks or even months. They know exactly where to return. The process is subtle, but fascinating. Scrub jays will cache food in various locations, scattering it across a territory they've mapped out in their minds. They don't just hide it anywhere, they're deliberate in their choices. Some areas are selected with the same careful consideration a person might use to arrange things in a closet. Even now it might seem like a simple thing, hiding food for later, but the scrub jay is taking into account more than just the moment. It's thinking ahead, considering how the weather might change, how the food might be disturbed. And even more surprising, they keep track of who might be watching them. For the scrub jay, this isn't simply about remembering where the food is. It's about anticipating who might come searching for it. These birds can even tell the difference between a threat and a harmless observer. They know when to keep their food hidden, and when it's safe to leave it out in the open. Still, it's not just the cleverness of their food storage, it's how they learn. These birds have been observed watching other jays as they hide food, and over time they pick up on how to do it themselves. Not only do they remember where their own caches are, but they also learn from others' actions. In a way, it's as if their minds are constantly shifting, organizing, categorizing. Every little action contributes to a larger picture. Even the way they move, how they hop from tree to tree, each action in sync with the landscape around them, betrays a mind working in quiet efficiency. They are constantly aware, constantly adjusting, without much thought. Most of us don't give much attention to how animals store food. But for scrub jays, it's more than just a survival instinct. It's a sophisticated skill, one that might remind you of a person organizing a library. Every item has its place. Every location is chosen for a reason. Maybe you've felt the kind of focus they bring to their task, the quiet deliberation, the constant calculation, the subtle adjustments made throughout the day. It's something that happens without a sound, without an outward sign, but within their tiny minds, the birds are working, planning, always thinking ahead. The most intriguing part of all this, they don't just remember locations, they remember the context. These jays are capable of recalling who was nearby when they hid their food and will change their behavior accordingly. If they feel watched, they'll move their caches to avoid the prying eyes. It's not just memory, it's awareness, judgment, adaptation. It simply waits, suspended in the air like the stillness before a shift. In time, the scrub jay will return to its food, knowing exactly where it is, but it's not just the food it remembers. It's the patterns, the changes, the flow of events. a quiet dance between memory and action, a rhythm few can fully grasp, and then it's done. The bird moves again, not a trace left of its thought process. There's no ceremony, no sign of the careful planning that has taken place. It's just a hop, a glance, and a pause before moving on. It doesn't need to show anyone what it's done, because it knows deep within it remembers. Maybe tomorrow you'll think differently about those birds. Maybe you'll notice them a bit more, and maybe you'll wonder just what they've hidden, what they've thought of before moving on. It doesn't ask for attention, but it never really leaves. The ground is cold, the air thinner, and the light dim. Beneath a blanket of snow, something stirs in the frozen earth. A small hidden creature lies perfectly still, its body encased in ice. Its heart, once beating steadily, is now quiet. The frog waits, frozen in time. You might not see it. In fact, most wouldn't even notice. The frog's body is still silent, but deep within something incredible happens. The ice wraps around it, encasing it completely. Its blood, once warm, is now as cold as the air outside. Yet the frog doesn't die. It simply pauses. Still, its cells, its tissues, are far from inert. Even as the frosty grip of winter takes hold, the frog's body enters a strange, quiet slumber. Its metabolism slows to the point of near nothingness. The rhythm of life stops entirely, and yet it doesn't end. It is simply suspended. Even now, frozen in place, the frog is still alive. Its body, seemingly a lifeless sculpture of ice, holds a secret. Though you can't see it, there's a pulse, a faint, distant pulse. It's barely there, but it's enough to keep the frog in a state of suspended animation. Without much thought, we often forget how many creatures have learned to survive what seems impossible. The frog isn't just cold-blooded. It is cold in a way that's almost beyond belief. A delicate dance of freezing and thawing. For the frog, it's a rhythm of life that's as much about stillness as it is about movement. In the silent cold, as its heart beats no more, the frog seems dead. It's a frozen moment in time. But what's strange is this: it isn't dead at all. Not yet. The frozen frog will wait. It will wait for the warmth to return, for the thaw to come. And then something remarkable happens. Slowly, the ice around the frog begins to melt. The cold loosens its grip. The still body begins to stir, as though waking from a long sleep. The cells, once frozen solid, now begin to move. Life returns. The frog thaws and begins to move once again, as though nothing had happened. It's a quiet resurrection. There's no dramatic moment, no sudden explosion of energy. Instead, there's a soft stirring, a gentle thawing. One moment, the frog is solid ice. The next, it's once again moving, alive. This delicate process happens slowly, almost unnoticed, but it's life, returning just as quietly as it had gone. Still, how does it do this? How does the frog freeze completely, only to thaw back to life? It's a dance of biology, one that scientists can explain, but can't quite replicate. The frog's body holds a secret. It's the key to surviving in places where few others could. The secret lies in the ice itself. It forms not inside the frog's cells, but outside them. Special proteins keep the inside of the frog's body safe, protecting it from the icy grasp that would otherwise destroy it. These proteins act as guardians, ensuring that the frog's most delicate structures remain intact. Even now, as the frog moves back into the warmth of the world, its blood begins to flow once again. Slowly, at first, its muscles, once stiff, begin to loosen. The frozen heart beats again, a quiet pulse that's been waiting all this time. It wasn't dead, just waiting. Waiting to thaw. Without much thought, we take for granted how life moves so steadily, so predictably. The frog, though, knows a different rhythm. A rhythm that's not tied to time, not tied to the clock or the seasons. Its rhythm is tied to survival, to a quiet thawing, and to the pause between life and death. It might seem like a trick, but it's not. It's simply the way of the frog. Life, frozen. then thawed, the world goes cold, and the frog goes still. Then warmth returns, and the frog stirs back into being. In the gap between those moments, the frog lives, and in the pause, it simply waits. Maybe you'll never see it, but the frozen frog waits quietly, undisturbed, for the moment to change. The ice will melt, the thaw will come, and once again the frog will breathe the air, stretch its legs, and move with the flow of life. It is the quietest, most profound thing. It doesn't ask for attention. It simply waits. As the seasons shift, as the earth begins to thaw, the frog's quiet revival goes unnoticed. But it never really leaves. It simply fades in and out, following the rhythms of nature that we all too often forget to notice. A soft ripple glides across the water. The stillness of the lake contrasts with the ducks paddling in the distance. Their bodies float gently, serene, yet their eyes, one open, the other closed, are alert. It's a quiet, almost eerie sight, and you wonder, how can they sleep like this? Half awake, half asleep. It's a peculiar thing, really, to think about how some creatures sleep. For us, it's all or nothing. Our minds either wake or fall into slumber. But for ducks, sleep is not so simple. One half of their brain rests, while the other stays vigilant, always watching. Still, this ability isn't unique to ducks alone. Many animals, especially those in the wild, sleep in this way. It's a method called unihemispheric slow-wave sleep. The idea is simple. While one hemisphere of the brain goes into deep rest, the other remains active, keeping watch for potential danger. Even now, you might find it hard to believe. How can an animal truly rest if part of it is always awake? But the more you think about it, the more it makes sense. A duck, floating calmly on the water, must remain aware. The world doesn't stop, even in sleep, and danger can appear at any moment. Without much thought, we assume sleep is always about rest, a full break from the world. But for creatures like ducks, sleep isn't about shutting down completely. It's a delicate balance between relaxation and readiness. The mind never fully turns off. It simply pauses, taking shifts in the work of awareness. The half-awake, half-sleep state is a survival strategy, not just a curious quirk. Ducks and other birds that sleep in this way are vulnerable when they sleep. Their environment, open and exposed, makes them prime targets for predators. To survive, they've evolved to keep one eye on the world, while the other rests, and yet the process isn't as simple as just staying awake with one eye open. It's a sophisticated mental trick. The brain shifts from one side to the other, turning off one hemisphere at a time. This allows the duck to experience rest while maintaining some level of alertness. The result is a kind of divided sleep. As you imagine it, the process seems almost like magic. One side of the brain drifts off, quiet and still, while the other keeps watch. The open eye scans the surroundings. The body remains motionless, afloat, like a tiny raft caught between two worlds, half of it asleep, the other half fully awake, aware of the shifting world around it. Even now you might start to wonder if you could do the same. Could you sleep with half your mind alert? Would you even want to? It seems unnatural for a human to live with such constant awareness, but for the duck, it's essential. A skill honed by millions of years of evolution, perfected for survival. Without much thought, you might assume that ducks sleep soundly at night. But in truth, they've learned to adapt, to rest during the day, even when they're exposed. This ability to stay half awake, half asleep, allows them to gather energy while still staying in tune with their surroundings. It's an elegant solution to a constant threat. It's amazing how nature has found ways for even the simplest creatures to manage risk while still taking care of themselves. The duck, in its quiet way, has figured out how to rest without being vulnerable, how to recharge while remaining ready. It's a balancing act that has been perfected over countless generations. And yet, it's not just ducks. Many species that spend time in the wild or exposed to predators rely on this unique ability to stay alert. Dolphins, some seals, and even certain birds all have evolved in this way. They can sleep with one half of their brain, the other half always awake. It's a natural safeguard. Still, you'll never quite look at a duck the same way again. The next time you see one resting by a pond, you might wonder if it's truly asleep or simply pretending. In a world where rest and vigilance must coexist, ducks have found a way to navigate both, floating calmly while always watching, always listening. Without much thought, you might have passed by dozens of these creatures, unaware of the delicate balance they maintain. The world moves around them, but in that quiet moment, with one eye closed, they hold a secret. They are asleep, yes, but their mind remains alert, forever poised, waiting. Maybe tomorrow, when you see a duck on the water, you'll pause for a moment. You might wonder just how many times it has rested with one eye open, how many times it shifted between sleep and awareness. You might think about how the world doesn't stop. Even when it does, it doesn't ask for attention. It simply exists, like the duck, floating in the stillness, half asleep, half aware. Moving between two worlds, never fully at rest, always poised for what comes next. The sleep, the wakefulness, the quiet dance, one that continues quietly in the background while the world moves on. There's a stillness under the water, a quiet world where strange creatures move, hidden beneath the surface. One of them rests in the sand, its body long and smooth, barely noticeable, but when threatened, something happens. The calm is broken. A sudden burst, a defense, something emerges, then disappears, and the sea cucumber is untouched. You may not notice it at first, the sea cucumber, its soft body blending into the ocean floor. But like many creatures in the deep, it has a way of protecting itself that's as strange as it is effective. When the danger comes too close, the sea cucumber reacts, expelling its intestines in an unexpected display. Still, it's a quiet process. There's no sound, no dramatic movement. Instead, in the blink of an eye, the sea cucumber's body shifts. Its innards spill out, a delicate, almost surreal reaction. It doesn't fight, it doesn't run. It simply lets go, offering something to its would-be attacker that's not easily ignored. Without much thought, it's easy to dismiss this action as just another weird part of nature. But think for a moment, the sea cucumber isn't retreating or fleeing. It's giving up something precious, something vital. Its intestines, once ejected, are left behind, and yet, in this loss, there's a strange kind of survival. The act itself is so bizarre, it almost feels unreal. The sea cucumber isn't just dropping its insides for show. The expelled intestines, which are coated in toxic substances, work as a distraction. The attacker, now distracted by the wriggling toxic mass, might give up its chase, leaving the sea cucumber to drift back into the shadows. Even now, it's hard to imagine such a strange survival tactic being successful. Yet this bizarre defense works. The sea cucumber's body can regenerate its lost intestines over time, a process that's as quiet and unnoticed as the expulsion itself. The creature gives away a part of itself, and yet, in return, it keeps its life. Still, the idea of such a sacrifice lingers in your mind. How often do we think of survival as something requiring so much loss? The sea cucumber, in the moment of danger, makes the choice to surrender its intestines, and in that surrender, it finds the quietest form of safety, leaving behind only a memory of what once was. Without much thought, the expulsion of the intestines seems absurd. It's hard to imagine any other animal offering such an intimate piece of itself for survival. Yet the sea cucumber's defense, so unusual and strange, has existed for centuries, hidden beneath the surface of the ocean, waiting to protect itself in the quietest way possible. What does it feel like to give up something so necessary? The sea cucumber doesn't hesitate. It simply ejects its insides and watches as the threat moves away. Its survival doesn't depend on strength or speed, but on an odd, subtle sacrifice, one that doesn't feel like an action at all, but more like a quiet letting go. And still, this small, quiet act is what keeps the sea cucumber alive. While other creatures might fight or flee, the sea cucumber offers something else. Its body, its very life in the form of intestines, given freely to avoid harm. There's no struggle, just an unexpected surrender that ensures its survival in a way few could understand. Maybe the most fascinating part of this defense is how little it asks. The sea cucumber doesn't seem to feel the loss, at least not in a way we can comprehend. The intestines that were expelled are gone, but the sea cucumber moves on, slowly, calmly, continuing its quiet existence beneath the waves. The world goes on without fanfare. Even now you might find yourself thinking about it, the way the sea cucumber reacts. In a world full of complex, aggressive defenses, this simple, strange tactic stands out. It's as if survival itself is an act of surrender, not resistance. The sea cucumber doesn't fight, it offers, and in that offering, it lives another day. Tomorrow, when you think of creatures that defend themselves, you may recall the sea cucumber's sacrifice. It won't be loud or flashy, it won't ask for attention, but in its quiet way, it survives. It lives on, ejected intestines and all, without ever making a sound, without ever truly fighting. The world of the sea cucumber is one of strange, subtle choices. The act of expelling its intestines, though bizarre, is a simple solution to an age-old question: how does one survive? The answer, at least for this creature, is to give away a piece of oneself, to let go, and in the letting go to remain. It's strange to think about, isn't it? Sharks, those ancient creatures of the deep, silently gliding through the water, and yet they've been around for longer than trees, longer than most things we think of as old. They've existed, without much change, long before the first seed ever sprouted from the earth. Still, when you picture a shark, it's hard to imagine it without the context of trees. We think of trees as ancient symbols of time, the tall sentinels of forests, their roots buried deep into the ground. Yet the shark swam through ancient seas long before a single tree rose from the soil. Even now, as you imagine the ocean, you realize the shark's journey began in the waters of the Devonian period. This was a time when the first trees began to unfurl their branches towards the sky, and yet beneath the surface the shark was already there, in the deep, moving with a grace that has not changed much since then. Without much thought, you may envision these two worlds colliding, the land covered with the first patches of greenery, while below the waves the shark cuts through the water, its form already familiar, already perfected. There was a time when both existed, but in very different ways. One reaching for the sky, the other carving through the depths. The shark's body hasn't changed much. It's still sleek, powerful, and designed to cut through water with minimal effort. Meanwhile, the trees that rose much later were still learning how to hold themselves up. The first trees were small, modest, hardly the towering giants we associate with forests today. But the shark had already mastered survival. Still, there's something humbling in that thought, isn't there? The shark, a creature of such raw power and age, has survived through countless changes in the world, while trees, though they have flourished, took their time to take hold, slowly learning how to reach toward the sun, one leaf at a time. Even now, the thought lingers: how did the shark survive so long through so many cycles of Earth's history? What secrets does it carry? Those deep, ancient instincts that have carried it through millions of years, while trees began to take shape, slowly altering the land with their roots and branches. The shark's evolutionary path is tied to survival, its design honed in a way that few other creatures have been able to replicate. It's one of nature's finest examples of endurance. Trees, too, endured, but in a very different way, stretching toward the sky, providing shelter, breathing life into the world around them, one leaf at a time. Without much thought, you may not even question it anymore. Trees and sharks, both ancient, both vital to the earth, have coexisted for millions of years. But the realization that sharks were swimming long before trees were even a thought adds an eerie weight to the idea of time, to how life evolves, and to how it survives. The ocean, untouched by time in many ways, has been home to the shark for longer than most things we see today. Their existence has shaped the balance of marine life, their influence creeping through the layers of time, while trees began their slow rise on land, unable to compete with the sheer age of the oceans. Still, the sharks continue to glide, untouched by the passing ages, while the trees stand tall, slowly growing and changing, creating a landscape that we recognize as our own. The fact that sharks predate trees almost feels like a subtle reminder that there are forces greater than what we see, forces that continue their existence regardless of what we build around them. Even now, as trees stretch up toward the sky, their leaves catching the light, it's almost as if the shark exists in a separate quiet world, an ancient world that hasn't fully left. Their existence is a mark of endurance, like the deep pulse of the earth, unchanged by the years that pass above. Without much thought, the timeline blurs. The trees, after all, have their own place. They belong to the earth, shaping the land, bringing life to the air. But the sharks, older than the trees, glide just below the surface of time, their movements a quiet testament to the passage of ages. Maybe we don't always think about it this way, but there's something almost peaceful in knowledge. The shark has existed, unchanged, far longer than anything we know. It was here first. It has survived storms and shifts in the Earth's crust. It lives on, its silent journey continuing, as steady as the waves. The trees, too, have their place. They've evolved, adapted, provided life in ways that the shark could never do. They've shaped the world in their own way, their roots burrowing deep, holding the land together. But for all their growth, the shark has always been there, quietly waiting in the depths, older than anything we know. Without much thought, you realize that time isn't linear. It isn't simply a progression from one thing to another, it's cyclical. The shark was here first, then the trees, and both have endured, each in its own way, through the sweeping tides of time, unbothered by the fact that they came from different places. In the end, maybe it's enough to simply know the shark's existence, its silent, constant journey through the waters, reminds us of something ancient, something deep within the earth. And the trees, reaching for the sky, remind us of another kind of resilience, slow and steady, carving their place in the world. Maybe tomorrow, you'll think of this again. Maybe you'll remember the shark gliding through the water, older than the trees, untouched by time. Or maybe you won't. But for now, it lingers, like a thought that doesn't quite dissolve. The shark, the trees, each with their own story, their own quiet path through time. There's a quiet stillness to the water, the faint ripple of movement, the soft murmur of something beneath the surface, and there, among the shadows, you can spot them. They're delicate, almost otherworldly forms, floating gracefully, the axolotl. And yet something about them is different, something that sets them apart. Even now, as you look at them, you notice the gills, they flare out, bright pink and alive. And yet in their world, these creatures remain forever in the water, forever in their juvenile state. They never undergo the full transformation, like most amphibians do. They stay, unchanged. Without much thought, you might assume they simply choose to remain this way, but it's deeper than that. A silent mystery. The axolotl's refusal to undergo full metamorphosis is not a conscious decision, but a part of its biology. It's a delicate balance of nature, frozen in time. Still, scientists have wondered about this phenomenon for years. The axolotl, unlike most amphibians, doesn't transition fully from its aquatic larval stage to a terrestrial adult form. It holds on to its young, waterborne self, never quite shedding that stage, never quite emerging from the depths like others of its kind. It's a curious thing, how the axolotl's life never truly leaves the water. The change that many other amphibians undergo, the legs, the lungs, the transition to land, never happens for the axolotl. It stays in its larval state, living in the water, its gills growing ever more pronounced. Even now, there are those who seek to understand why. What is it about this species that keeps it from metamorphosing, like others? Why does it remain in its aquatic world? Is it something inherent in its DNA, something in the genes that holds it in this state? Still, there are answers, or at least clues. The axolotl's refusal to undergo full metamorphosis is linked to a genetic trait called nusony. This means that, unlike most amphibians, the axolotl's body does not mature fully. It retains its juvenile features throughout its life, forever swimming in the depths, forever in its youthful form. Without much thought, this might seem like an odd quirk of nature, but there's something fascinating about it. The axolotl is a living snapshot, a creature that never grows up. It clings to its beginnings, never reaching the end that other creatures are destined to. It stays in a perpetual state of becoming, never fully arriving. Maybe that's the beauty of it. The axolotl doesn't need to transform. Its world is the water, and it fits perfectly there. Why should it change when it has already found its place? It thrives in its current state, adapting to a life that requires no evolution. It is what it is, and that is enough. Still, there are times when the axolotl will surprise. Under certain conditions, with the right stimuli, the axolotl can undergo metamorphosis, but even then, it's rare. Most of the time, it stays as it is, floating in the water, a creature forever young. The possibility of change is always there, but it's not necessary. Even now, as you look at the axolotl, there's something oddly peaceful about its permanence. The way it floats in the water, its gills swaying softly, its body unchanged. It's as though it has found a timeless rhythm in the world. It's a creature that has learned to remain still, and in that stillness, it thrives. Without much thought, you realize that maybe we too long for that stillness, that desire to remain where we are, to stay in a place of safety and comfort. The axolotl, in its refusal to change, reminds us of the quiet beauty of remaining in the moment, of being content with what we are. Still, there's something melancholy in the axolotl's stillness. It's a reminder that life doesn't always follow the expected path. It doesn't always change, or grow, or evolve. Sometimes, it simply stays, and in that staying it holds a quiet kind of magic, the magic of knowing when to remain. Even now, the axolotl's life continues, unchanging. It drifts through the water, always the same, always young, always in its world. It doesn't need to become anything else. It is what it is, and that is more than enough. It simply exists, in its perfect timeless state. Maybe tomorrow, when you see an axolotl again, you'll remember this. You'll remember how it stays, how it doesn't need to change to be beautiful. It will remind you that sometimes the most peaceful way to live is to simply remain where you are, just as you are. It waits. A still pond, the air thick with humidity, the faint ripple of water brushing against the shore. There, beneath the surface, the quiet life of amphibians stirs. But it's not just the cool water that sustains them. No, there's something else, something remarkable, something hidden in the way they move, or rather don't move. Even now, you might not notice it, but the toad, still and unmoving by the water's edge, is absorbing the world around it in a way you may not expect. Its skin, smooth yet textured, tells a secret. The water doesn't just pass by, it slips into the toad's body, quietly, almost imperceptibly. It's strange, isn't it? The thought that water, this essential life-giving liquid, doesn't need to be swallowed, not for the toad. Instead, it is drawn through its skin, absorbed through the belly, where its body opens itself to the water like a sponge. The toad doesn't drink, it simply exists within it. Without much thought, the process unfolds in silence. There's no rush, no gulping or swallowing, just stillness. The water soaks in, flowing through the permeable skin, traveling into the toad's body, without a single movement. It's as if the water recognizes the need, quietly filling the toad's insides, sustaining life in a way we can barely comprehend. Still, it's not something you would notice at first. The toad remains in its stillness, waiting. Yet, this simple act of absorption is vital to its survival. It's how the toad stays hydrated, how it remains connected to the world around it, drawing sustenance from what seems like nothing at all. Even now, you can imagine it, no sound, no effort, the water seeps in, just as it has for countless generations. The toad's body is adapted to this quiet process, capable of drawing what it needs from the environment without the need for a single conscious action. It's a rhythm of nature, seamless and serene. And yet, in its quiet existence, the toad is anything but passive. There's a subtle control to this, an understanding that the environment provides exactly what it needs. The toad, in its stillness, is a master of absorption. It knows the world around it, and it knows how to take what it offers. This method of drinking, so different from what we know, is a gift. It is one of nature's many quiet wonders. The toad doesn't need to move or search for water in the same way other creatures do. It simply rests, its body open to the world, and the water comes to it, drawn inward without effort. Without much thought, this process can seem invisible. The toad doesn't make a show of it. It doesn't need to. The world comes to it, slipping inside through its skin, nourishing its body in a way so few of us understand. A simple act, yet so full of quiet complexity, a reminder of life's most hidden rhythms. Even now, the toad remains unchanged. You can't see the water entering it, can't hear it, but it's there. It's an ongoing process, constant and steady, like a breath. And in this silence, the toad is sustained, living in harmony with its surroundings, in a way that is as ancient as the earth itself. The world, it seems, has a way of offering exactly what is needed, without force, without struggle. The toad, with its belly to the water, knows this. It doesn't fight for survival, it simply allows the world to fill it up, quietly and without resistance, as though the water has always known where to go. Perhaps, in this small act, there is a lesson, a quiet reminder that sometimes the most important things don't require effort. They don't demand attention, they simply exist, waiting, drawing from the world around them in the most natural way. The toad has learned this. And maybe so can we. Without much thought, the toad slips back into its quiet existence. It doesn't seek praise for the water it absorbs. It doesn't need recognition for how it sustains itself. It simply continues, always present, always connected to the world in a way we might never fully grasp. But it doesn't ask for our understanding. Even now, as the toad's stillness surrounds you, there's a sense of peace in knowing that it exists in this quiet, hidden way. It's not about what is visible, it's about what happens without being seen, without even needing to be known. The toad simply lives, and in living, it absorbs. It simply waits. In the quiet of the forest floor, beneath a canopy of leaves, there is a world unseen. The ants go about their endless work, carrying, building and nurturing their colony. But among them, in the shadows, there is one figure who stands still waiting. The queen. Her life is a different story. A queen ant's life is unlike most creatures. While the worker ants around her live short, frantic lives, she exists in a quiet space of longevity. You might not think about it, but the queen, the heart of the colony, can live for decades, 30 years, even longer. How is this possible? Still, it's not something you see often. Most ants live for a year or two, and then they are gone. Their job is brief but essential. Yet the queen, the center of the colony's future, can remain untouched by the quick passage of time that affects those around her. There's a quiet mystery in that. Even now, you might imagine the bustling colony, the worker ants moving about, unaware of the slow, steady existence of the queen. She doesn't work like they do. Her role is different. It's about creation, about laying the foundation for generations to come. And in this, she finds a different kind of time. The secret lies in her biology, of course. Unlike the worker ants, the queen's body is designed for a singular purpose, reproduction. She doesn't have to worry about foraging or defending the colony. All of her energy is channeled into the task of producing new life, and in this, she has found a way to endure far longer than most. Without much thought, you might assume that a longer life requires something special. Perhaps it's the food she eats, or the way she's cared for. But the truth is more subtle. It's in the way her body has adapted, how her immune system has evolved to protect her from disease, and how her cells age at a slower rate than the workers. Still, there's something more than biology at play. The queen lives in a constant state of need, of purpose. The colony depends on her. Without her, there is no future. It's almost as if the colony, in its own way, has found a way to support her, to give her the gift of time. And yet, it's not just the queen's biology that grants her such longevity. There's an element of protection in her role. She is surrounded by workers who care for her, who groom her and bring her food. She doesn't need to leave the safety of the nest. She is kept safe while the world outside moves on. The workers, in their endless activity, ensure the queen remains untouched by the dangers of the world. The colony shields her, providing everything she needs to live for decades. It's a quiet partnership. The workers live short lives, but their service ensures the queen's prolonged existence. It's an arrangement that benefits them all. Even now, the queen continues to thrive, unseen and unknown to many. Her life is a slow rhythm, a quiet hum beneath the activity of the colony. She doesn't rush, doesn't hurry. There's no need. Her purpose is clear, and in her patience, she finds a kind of time that most creatures never know. The workers, busy and short-lived, are focused on the moment. They don't think about the long span of time that the queen occupies. They only know that their lives are devoted to ensuring the colony survives, ensuring the queen's eggs are laid, ensuring the future continues. Without much thought, you might consider how rare it is for anything to live this long. The queen ant's life seems so distant, so different from our own. Yet, in her world, time is not measured by days, but by the future she creates. She lives to give life. And in this, she finds a different kind of immortality. Still, the queen is not immortal. Even she will eventually succumb to time, as all things do. But for those 30 years or more, she is the heartbeat of the colony. She is their anchor, their center. And as she lives, she creates life. Hundreds, thousands, maybe even millions of ants, each carrying on the cycle. You might never see her. She is hidden, protected, safe. The workers go on about their tasks, but the queen's existence is something deeper, something less visible. It's a quiet, unspoken thing. A life that persists long after the workers around her have come and gone. And in her time, she leaves behind a world of life. Tomorrow, when you see an ant, you might think about the queen. Her life, so much longer than the ones around her. And in that thought, you might find a new understanding of time, of patience, of purpose. It's a life lived differently, one that stretches out as if time itself had bent to her will. Maybe you'll never notice her, but she is there, in the quiet of the nest, living a life that seems impossible. For 30 years and more, she will continue, surrounded by workers who serve her without question, knowing that their brief lives are the foundation for a future she will never see, but will always create. It simply waits, that long quiet life, and maybe, just maybe, you'll notice it, in the smallest of ways, as the ants continue their work, unseen and unnoticed. But always in the background, time stretches out, a queen, living far beyond the reach of time, at least for now.